Emmajority Report with Sam Cedar, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday, Tuesday, Casual Tuesday, Wednesday, Casual Hump Day, Thursday, Casual Thurs, that's what we call it, and Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Cedar.
It is Friday, August 11th, 2023. My name is Emma Vigeland, in for Sam Cedar, and this is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live, I need to do that, steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. Whew! On the program today, Alex Perrine of The New Republic and the AP newsletter, The Good One, will be with us. And later in the show, Francesca Fiorentini of the Bituation Room will also be with us. Meanwhile, the death toll in Maui rises to 55, making it one of the deadliest U.S. wildfires in the last 100 years. Climate activists and scientists are skeptical, to say the least, about Biden's implementation of direct capture technology to vacuum greenhouse gases from the atmosphere, paying Warren Buffett's company to do so. Meanwhile, Biden sends a stern letter to red states kicking people off Medicaid rolls in the past few months. At least 4 million have been removed. The special counsel proposes a January trial for Trump's election interference case. Trump should appeal that, or try to push it. Trump and his aide, Walt Nauta, plead not guilty in the stolen documents case. James Comer says he'll subpoena the Biden crime family over their investigation in search of a crime. Yawn. Manchin once again threatens to leave the Democratic Party. Double yawn. Tommy Tuberville may actually live in Florida, not Alabama, according to records, financial records. Unions push the California legislature to re-implement unemployment benefits for striking workers during the final stretch of their legislative session. The Supreme Court temporarily blocks a sweetheart opioid settlement deal for the Sackler family, which would have shielded them from additional liability. The New York City Corrections Watchdog Agency sues the city over a lack of transparency about Rikers. Arizona Democrats lose a lawsuit trying to block the No Labels Party from getting ballot access. 2 years after our evacuation, tens of thousands of Afghans still waiting for the U.S. visas they were promised. And lastly, 1 suspect was killed and 6 arrested in the assassination of Ecuador's presidential candidate, Fernando Villavicencio. All with alleged drug trafficking ties. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome to the show, everybody. I have a hair, a loose hair on my lip, and I don't know where it is. It's bothering me, causing me to cough.
Phantom hair.
What is this? There it is. I got it. Hello, everybody.
Hey,
Casual
Emma.
Friday. No, I didn't get it. God damn it. I'm going to have to do this in a break. I don't know what's going on. It's like stuck in my lipstick or something like that. Driving me insane. But I did just want to correct myself because yesterday I said this and I was wrong. That the Biden Department of Justice has not sued Greg Abbott over his stuff at the border. They have. I just forgot about it. They sued Abbott last month about the buoy barrier. So that's good. I still think our point about him using the bully pulpit to combat it stands. But regardless, it's just wanted to issue that correction at the start of the show because I was incorrect in my commentary about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, lawyers first is one way to do this. And I assume it's the way, like, probably the most path of least resistance. I do feel like there should be some way for the American federal government to assert its own authority over the borders and say, hey, actually, we're not going to let state governors put up like devices that
Death
like
traps?
the Saw series would be jealous of, like, and kill people with them.
Yeah, right, exactly. Let's touch on this though. Obviously, major devastation in Hawaii right now. After the wildfires in Maui, the one of the deadliest wildfires in the last 100 years. I think it's currently only second to the ones in 2018 in California. And all of these deadly fires heavily concentrated in recent years. And it's obvious that this is a climate change related trend. Hawaii is typically associated with lush forests and fauna, but Hawaii's not even safe from drying caused by climate change. And there was an analysis done by the University of Hawaii of rainfall at a variety of monitoring sites, including in Hawaii. And since 1990, rainfall has been 31% lower in wet season and 6% lower in dry season in Hawaii. And that was work published in 2015, according to the New York Times. And on top of that, Hawaii's the decline in agriculture, the change in land use, according to experts, private property with foreign kinds of grass, landowners using it for their own private interests, has made Hawaii more susceptible to this kind of thing. And the destruction is just horrific. This is Yidris Nora, who is a resident of Maui, who spoke to Sky News about how he had to jump into the ocean on police orders to escape the flames.
We keep hearing explosions. We were hearing screams out of a horror movie.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't know. We were hearing people throwing up. We didn't know where they were. The smoke was just keep getting all black. And then, you know, I called the cops again. They couldn't come. The third time I called them, they said, you have to go in the water. And I said, you want us to jump in the hurricane? It's black, you know. The ocean was pulling us at the same time. We were trying to have debris falling on us. We're trying to get wet and not burn.
How long were you in the water for before you were rescued?
Like 3 hours, maybe, something like that.
About 3.
Yeah.
It sounds miraculous that you were able to survive.
I didn't think. I just prayed and I said, God, please not today. I didn't know what to say. This is it. You know,
I did the same thing. I was like, when I was on my back in the water going, I was like, not today, God. Not, just not today. Not like this.
I mean, just must have been terrifying to be in the ocean and it's completely black from all the smoke
Between
and
the
soot. Water
and flames, it's like...
I mean, they were the lucky ones, though, at the same time.
Right.
As I said in headlines, at least 55 dead at this point, and that number is going to continue to tick up. This is another a clip here. ABC News, they ran this segment on one of their meteorologists who is based in Hawaii, Malika Dudley, and she speaks about her experience seeking refuge from the flames.
Malika Dudley, a meteorologist at our Honolulu station KITV, but also a Maui resident forced to flee with her family in the middle of the night, describing that experience in her own words.
We got a call from our neighbor who said, get out of your house. And we looked out the window and there was a red glow outside of our window. The fire was right above our property. Woke up all the children, piled them into my car. I've got 3 children and I have a child of a friend with me as well, which just kind of heightens that level of anxiety quite immediately, if you will. And we started to drive towards my best friend's house. We knocked on our door, woke them up at 4 a.m. And that's where we've been sheltering ever since. Unfortunately, other areas on the island are still right in the thick of it and still dealing with loss of communication. People can't get in touch with their family members. We don't know how many structures have been taken. And last night was like Armageddon. It was wild driving back along the Central Valley and seeing 2 fires up on the hill and a massive fire building over another part of the island down south in Kihei. That's what you're showing right now. And knowing that on the opposite side of the island in Lahaina, people were literally running for their lives.
Could really sense the emotion in her voice there.
I mean, it is. She mentions the structures there. Lahaina, once the capital of the Kingdom of Hawaii before we colonized Hawaii, has been devastated. In particular, many ancient, like, indigenous structures that have been severely damaged. And indigenous activists have warned about the disrespect of the Hawaiian ecosystem by colonizers for decades before this. Before, during, after Hawaii's colonization, that was always at the heart of the protestations because of the capitalist desires of the United States. And now Maui in particular, it's become a vacation destination for a lot of people, second homes for the wealthy. And as I mentioned earlier, that change in the grass complexion, according to experts, has contributed to this, as well as general climate trends, which, like, as the temperature gets hotter, there's less cloud cover in Hawaii. The clouds are thinned out, and that means higher temperatures. Or I should say, the higher temperatures thin out the clouds, which means that there's less rolling clouds with rainfall in Hawaii. And it also shifts patterns in the La Niñas, which bring rainfall seasonally to Hawaii. So it's all inextricably linked.
As far as, like, states that are the most concerned with climate change, I would think, and I'm looking for numbers on this, but I think Hawaii had got to be up there because you're such you're small speck in the middle of the ocean in a delicate ecosystem. And yeah, I mean, changes like this where you're seeing stuff burn that hasn't burned in thousands, like, it's horrible.
It's horrible. I mean, what else can you say? But, like, we're gonna have to start getting serious. Like, this summer.
Oh yeah, I mean, I appreciate Rokana calling on who I have beef with regards to Silicon Valley connections and stuff like that. But calling on Biden to do the climate emergency, like
he did. Oh, that's good.
Oh, he called on it. Yeah, I thought you said Biden did call.
No. He did ? Yeah.
Rose said, like, yeah, like, it's time to do a climate emergency, and it is.
All right, guys. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be speaking to Alex Perrine about the news of the week. We are back, and we are joined now by Alex Perrine, friend of the show, one of the best BFFs of the show. I mean, honestly.
Wow. Yeah, thank you.
Definitely, like, you're in the best friend competition.
Sits by us at lunch.
You have to wear pink. Of the AP newsletter, contributing editor at the New Republic, host of the Politics of Everything. Alex, thanks so much for coming on.
It's a pleasure to be here, and I feel very welcome now that I know I'm in the top tier of best friends.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to do more, like maybe send me money to get to best friend status, but
sure.
it's definitely up there.
Yeah.
I guess the big news of the week, at least for me, is the issue 1 victory for the Democrats, for the left, for anybody that cares about a person's right to choose when they want to end a pregnancy.
Yeah.
In Ohio. I mean, that was just really important, I think, not just for Ohio, not just for abortion, but for what it means electorally, honestly, for the Democrats going into next year's elections.
Yeah.
What was your reaction, Alex?
I mean, I was obviously very heartened by I was heartened by it, and I was glad at the result. I also, I'm not going to pretend that I predicted it, but it's not like I was shocked at the result, because I think this feels like something that we've been talking about for a while now, that on a lot of these issues that are treated as hot button or controversial or wedge issues, it's been the case for a while now that like the liberal side of the issue is just generally more popular even than the Democratic Party is. And it's not just reproductive rights. Like you can go down a sort of list of things that are treated as divisive in this country, including a lot of stuff that Democrats ostensibly support, and like the issues are often more popular than the politicians, and especially in places like the Midwest, you have a recent history, extensive recent history electorally of like ballot referenda and things like that, outperforming Democratic politicians themselves when it comes to labor, reproductive rights, and things like that.
And marijuana, there were a few moments.
Definitely, yeah.
I mean, come on, we can all get behind that here. Everybody here can get behind that. But like, it's really important, I think, as a lesson for the Democrats to learn, because the party branding, if the face of the party is Biden and Kamala Harris, like that's not a strong brand. Right. But if the face of the party are the issues that are widely popular, and you do that through ballot initiatives, especially because Arizona seems to be taking a page out of others' books on this, and they're going to do, or at least they're on track to potentially do an abortion ballot referendum, a ballot measure in November 2024, which would be massive, because Arizona's a swing state. But like it just, that driving turnout via issues like abortion, that seems to be in the short term the only way that the Democrats are going to have success, and I think they can have success with it.
I think they absolutely can, and it's going to rely on something that I think some Democratic parties in the country are getting better at, but something that does not come naturally to old guard Democrats, and that is clarifying positions on the issues rather than muddying them. It's like sort of the opposite of triangulating. The instinct for a lot of old guard Democrats is to blur the distinctions between the parties and then run on essentially people and personalities, to say we will find the most qualified candidate and we will blur the issues and people will vote for our most qualified candidate. And you look at the actual situation on the ground in a lot of the country right now, and something like the opposite approach is true. You want to clarify for the voters, this is what we stand for, this is what they stand for. That's actually a lot of work. There's a lot of work done to sort of muddy the distinctions between the parties, and especially when it comes to a lot of these issues that end up on ballot referenda, right? Like, there's been polling that says people just simply do not believe the actual Republican Party agenda, right? Like, they just don't actually believe they mean it. And when something like, these abortion referenda come up, that clarifies the issue. And instead of triangulating, instead of blurring distinctions, what you want to do is clarify for voters and say, like, we're the ones on the side of the thing that you like, and the other side is against it. And it like sounds simple, but it actually has historically been difficult.
And that was embedded both in the issue that was oh, nice shirt, by the way, WGA. I just saw that. Yeah, very cool. Yeah. That was embedded both in the issue of abortion that was being, adjudicated, I guess, like through this issue 1 measure to raise the threshold for constitutional amendments from a simple majority to 60% through ballot initiatives, and in the form, right? Because this was yet another effort by the Republican Party to rig the rules in favor of minoritarian rule. I mean, they've done that through gerrymandering. They've done that they continue to do that through and the Democrats help them through the upholding of the filibuster in the Senate. Like, this is and through their stacking of the judiciary and their successful stacking of the Supreme Court. This is a hallmark of their strategy, and the only way that the Democrats seem to, be able to combat it is, as we say, the focus on the core of the issue that is so widely popular.
Yeah, and I think it goes to, again, probably a good sign for the success of that conservative strategy, or a good sign for the eventual defeat of that conservative strategy, that the tactic of picking fights in weirdly timed off-year elections in order to ensconce anti-majoritarian rules is kind of backfiring, because that's been something that's really, really hard to get normal people to, fired up about, is the sort of anti-majoritarian tendencies of the right, and the sort of traditional Democratic response of like, well, just beat him at the ballot box just doesn't work when you're sort of systematically underrepresented in every level of government. So the fact that there has been success politically, messaging wise and turnout wise on what are treated as these sort of tactical and sometimes even sort of abstract issues of governance is, I mean, it's difficult to sustain that, but it's definitely a good sign.
Yeah, I don't think it's sustainable either. I mean, right now the Republicans are in a position where they have bumped up against, they finally found like the bottom of the hole that they've dug themselves into.
Yeah.
And they got a bunch of treasure along the way, right? Which was, we're going to focus on turning out our base. And they were successful for decades with this strategy.
Yep.
And it's all about, giving the base what they want, no matter how absurd, how hateful, and then we'll be able to cut a bunch of taxes for the rich along the way. Win-win. And now, though, with Trump at the helm of the party, and with like that imagery of January 6th, when you say people don't believe Republicans,
Yeah.
but they have no choice but to believe them now.
Yeah.
That they're fine with overturning the election. They saw it in the flesh, and I think that like abortion in January 6th, it's a good electoral strategy for Democrats.
Yeah, and it kind of sucks to sound like an accelerationist, but like that's where you end up, just with the facts on the ground. But like the fact is, they have shown in a way that gets through to just about everyone what they plan to do with power, how they plan to get power, and what they plan to do with it, and letting them show that themselves. You wish it hadn't come to that, but now that it has, you got to press the issue.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because that was, almost sometimes like what the strategy was against Trump, right? When Hillary was running against him, give him enough rope to hang himself, but then he ended up actually being president.
Well, right.
Then he got the rope, saved some for his supporters with Mike Pence.
The problem with pursuing that as an intentional strategy is that like it allows them to get all of these victories first.
Yes. Yeah.
But what, like, the thing is, like, once those happen, you have to press the issue. And I just, like, that's just sort of where we are now.
Exactly. Speaking of that guy named Trump.
I'm sorry. Who again?
I'm not sure if you've ever heard of him, but.
Oh, the guy from Home Alone? The guy from Home Alone 2? Yeah.
That guy and The Apprentice and The Celebrity Apprentice, which, I mean, that's always fun to
Is this our Where Are They Now segment? The Where Are They?
Favorite? It is. It's now we're doing television critique.
Herschel, I'm not gay, but if I was,
I'd be gay for you.
But you're fired.
And then flash forward, he's the Republican nominee for Senate. But like, it's just these Jack Smith. I'm not sure what your reaction was to the indictment. And I'm trying not to lib out here, but sometimes that's like how I grew up, and I reverted to that form. I read like a majority of that indictment, And you get a little bit of like legal excitement from it because it is very well crafted, and the arguments that are put forth are substantiated. The timeline's quite clear. The fact that the all of the charges can be applied to basically all of the accusations streamlines this trial process in a very neat way, and the strategy of going for Trump first, not indicting the co-conspirators until after this is done, to streamline the process and not have the trials get intertwined. Once Giuliani's charged, which should be once Eastman is, once Jeff Clark and Sidney Powell, etc. But I found it to be impressive and hopefully effective.
Yeah, I mean, I have not read the entire indictment. I think I read part of the Times annotated one, but not the entire thing. But I think there's no reason to fight the urge to live out because I think you can live out within reason, right? Because I think it's rare enough that sort of consequences happen to powerful people anyway in this society, that even though there's a long way to go here still, I think you can just be perfectly satisfied with seeing this play out the way it has, even if it came to some extent very, 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 very late. And so I think everyone should feel free to allow themselves to enjoy bad consequences happening to Donald Trump without feeling like it makes them too lib.
Yeah, I mean,
do you think there's too much focus on I see people moving too quickly to well, he's still gonna win the primary. It's yeah, he might. I don't know that. I feel like that those are two disconnected things.
I mean, they have the connection of electoral consequences potentially for him in the primary, but we can meet the moment of this guy's getting charged for basically trying to coup.
I don't think the prosecutors should be well, this might give him an extra boost in the primary. Let's hold back on this. That'd be an inappropriate way
I agree.
And that's actually, I think you're totally, because that's actually pundit brain speaking, right? When you look at anything that happens, and you say, what does this mean for Iowa? What does this mean in New Hampshire? That's pure pundit brain. And obviously we shouldn't want prosecutors to have that in mind when they're doing anything. But yeah, I mean, I think with
that said, they do have it in mind.
They do obviously have it in mind, right?
Then I'm going to be cynical and say, I mean, they are trying to get this trial through as
well. They're
ASAP.
Trying to,
and that's why they propose the trial date of January 2nd, and then Trump's going to counter. I'm sure they'll find some middle ground, right? But that's still pretty close to Super Tuesday, to be honest with you.
Yes. Yeah, but I think that it is also a sort of trap to put yourself in the everything is good news for Donald Trump mindset, right? Where it's I don't know, going to prison can be the best thing that happens to Donald Trump. I don't actually think that's true.
Right? No. Yeah, that would be bad.
I don't think violating his bond agreement is exactly how he wanted to.
Yeah, and he though man, I mean, Sam says it like this. This is an existential thing for him. He is running to save his own ass. Yeah. Because I think that he's gonna get convicted on at least one of these or two counts. I mean, and I think it's fair to speculate because this is a very different trial. It's one of the most important trials, arguably, in the history of the country. And but we have a lot of the facts already available to us based on reporting from the time. And we know that this stuff happened.
Yeah, no, that's so.
So once he gets, I think he will get convicted. And then that opens up a real, I mean, we don't know what the future holds really, but it opens up a series of more questions about how the Republican Party is going to respond, how his supporters will respond,
How the state will respond.
how the state will respond, how he will appeal. He will appeal to the Supreme Court most likely. I mean, what that looks like, we're just at the beginning of this complete shit show.
I mean, it could just definitely lead to some sort of insane constitutional crisis, like where, and not to speculate too much here, but obviously we've had people run for president from prison before, not to compare Trump to the great Eugene Debs.
Right.
Thank you, yes.
Just like him.
But because again, like nothing in the Constitution says you got to be out of jail to be president. Just like they didn't think of that when they wrote it. But
right.
the sort of elite mindset that like, well, it's just not done to lock up like people who might be president. That's just not done. Like that could become like a legal argument with some force behind it if it comes down to it, which is like not outside the realm of possibility, but also very bizarre thinking. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I agree with you that he will end up convicted on something, but beyond that, it's just like too many weird factors to even begin to predict anything.
You mentioned this earlier, but how this should have happened much earlier.
Right.
And it should have, but Merrick Garland didn't want to do anything. That's
you got to move forward.
This guy's like a ghost.
Turn the page.
That is his I mean, there's a reason he was an Obama appointee to the Supreme Court, and he has that kind of brain, and he did not want to get mired in the politics of it and what have you. But Bradley just sent this to me a few minutes ago. Garland appointed a special counsel, a man named David C. Weiss, the U.S. attorney in Delaware, to handle the Hunter Biden inquiry now. So we're having a separate special counsel investigation.
And just for
Hunter Biden.
And just for context, Weiss was the U.S. attorney, Trump-appointed U.S. attorney in Delaware, who had handed down the tax and gun charges that Republicans were speculating, but there was foul play because he wasn't like appointed to be a special counsel in that investigation. So now, it's seemingly, from my view, per some political pressure, because of the scuttled plea agreement, Garland is now, okay, I'll make Weiss a special counsel to sort of duck the claims that I wouldn't have made him a special counsel otherwise.
How many more Republicans are we going to appoint as special counsels to investigate these things, to prove the Republicans like wrong in this way, or make it seem super? I mean, I guess James Comer's just going to drop his probe now in the House. In the House, I mean. The Biden crime family, they're done with that, I'm sure.
Yeah, they're done. They've been appeased now. And I mean, it's the oldest joke in Washington. I mean, you can go back to the 90s. And you go back further. First of all, like, there's only ever been Republicans in charge of the FBI. Like, actual, card-carrying Republicans are the only people who've ever been in charge of the FBI. But, like, yeah, it's been a joke literally since Clinton that, like, in order to prove fairness, only Republicans are allowed to investigate anything. Which is bizarre. And so it leads to these situations where like Republican daddy, like lawmen are the ones who are like come in to take on these special investigations just to prove that there's no political bias here. And like when the Republican investigators go after Republican candidates, like no one is ever appeased by their political background. It has never worked once. To make the conservatives say, well, I guess this must be a totally fair and above board investigation because they put an old Republican guy in charge of it.
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
I was just gonna say, wait, we were full of shit. Oh, sorry about that.
Oh yeah.
I guess we'll just keep it up.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, is Jack Smith am I mistaken? Jack Smith's a Republican, right?
I think he is. I'm 90% sure he is. Yeah.
Bradley's going to look that up, but I mean, certainly Robert Mueller was.
Yep, Mueller was.
Oh, he's an independent. Jack Smith
okay,
is.
independent. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sus.
Yeah,
he's actually
so
he's a big
probably
Ron Paul guy.
Yeah. and like this is separate also from the other special counsel investigation that Merrick Garland okayed related to Biden, which is the special counsel investigation of the documents, which was another capitulation to Republicans saying, well, what about Biden? Even though the issue was not the possession of the classified documents.
Right.
That was never the issue.
Yeah.
Because they gave Trump a million opportunities to return them.
Yes, they were really, really begging him to, basically. They were like, please don't make us do anything.
Please don't make us prosecute you. And Trump was like, I need my presidential horcruxes, please. And like
we're gonna try as hard as we can to look the other way. If you could just do us a little solid here.
It's like in the dorms, like, hey man, you borrowed my Lost season 6 box set.
Can you just return it? Yeah.
I don't want to make it a thing. I really don't want to make it a thing.
Yeah, like, but cool. I'd like it back. And Pence and Biden both returned everything voluntarily. So we don't need a freaking special. Like, what is Merrick Garland good for, honestly, right now? Except for not being around, not being visible, and caving to right-wing, like, dishonest whataboutisms about Biden as it relates to Trump corruption. Like, honestly, this just emboldens them and makes their claims sound more legitimate than they are.
Yeah, and I mean, Merrick Garland is one of the most useless people in Washington right now. But yes, I mean, I don't know. I truly could not tell you what he's good for beyond what you just said. And again, like, the political theory, and this has been a political theory they've been testing for years and years and years. The political theory behind a Merrick Garland-like person is to lower the temperature of partisanship. And like, congratulations, has that worked? Has the temperature been lowered? We've tried this so many times, and it's nice and cool partisan-wise everywhere now.
Yeah. And I mean, you can just see too what can be when you appoint somebody who actually wants to fight to a cabinet position. We're seeing it with Lena Khan and the FTC, and like what a different vision of the Democratic Party would be. Like Lena Khan's, she's a Warrenite, right, Bradley? Yeah. Or she's of the Warren school, Lena Khan. I'm 90% sure of that, but I just like to double check. Even a Warren presidency or something like that, or even moving the Democratic Party in that direction with more of those types of people, it makes a difference.
Yeah, and I think it's like it's definitely more of a sort of mindset and generational thing than even an ideological thing. It's because I do think that even fairly centrist Democrats who are just younger than Biden would not have gone with a Garland-like pick, right? And I think that is partly from learning the lessons of the Obama administration, but just learning the lessons of the last 20 years too, and like just like a preference for people who do something rather than do nothing does not have to be ideological, but it sort of is in the Democratic Party for some reason. But I think like there's a lot of younger non-Biden people who have just more of a preference for just doing literally anything at all rather than hiding.
Right. And I think it really was Biden's attempt to say, well, the Justice Department was so politicized under Trump, and we're going to make it not so. And it just the value of that is to be, especially in a time when the Republicans are continuing down the path of being like this existential threat to democracy. It's just certainly not the time to defang yourself at one of the most important, at the highest level of like law enforcement in this country.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And then, when you come in, when you're coming in after a presidency where you're saying they were trying to politicize everything, and then essentially they have and when conservatives get back in power, they're going to do everything they can to implement it, but they have a playbook to, replace civil servants with partisan hacks. Like throughout the entire administrative state, like top to bottom. That's what their goal is. That's what their mission is. And when you come in, and you're like, I'm the caretaker president who's going to bring the temperature back down, and everything got too politicized, so we're going to like depoliticize everything. Like step one is not to just like now declare this is a partisan-free zone. Step one is to like clear house. That's step one.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Like you get rid of the hacks first. Like you go in there and you actually like clean house. And in order to then say like we are starting fresh, you don't just go in and be like, now that I've put a nice old man in charge, like all the bad political things are going to be done now.
Yeah, it's childish. Let's talk a bit about Ron DeSantis now, because since we last spoke, I'm not sure how many points he has dropped in Republican polls in states that he needs, like Iowa. I mean, he's doing a little better in Iowa now, but he's still dozens of points behind Trump.
All of his anecdotes about people pooping on New York sidewalks are really rocketing up to 17%.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, he loves, he did a number 2. I mean, wow, people just love to hear about that at rallies. Meanwhile, Trump's calling Christie a fat pig.
And talk about appliances.
Yeah. Just, I mean, I'm not sure what you anticipated when he announced his presidential run and the long ramp up to doing so. On our show, I believe, like, I was pretty skeptical that he would actually win the nomination and that he'd have the ability to really take on Trump. I think Sam agreed. It's been proven right. But what's been your reaction to seeing his numbers drop like a stone like this?
I mean, it's like satisfying, but because I hate the guy, but it feels, and there are some really important differences in a post-Trump era to these prior elections, but like it feels like every 4 years we all like the people whose job it is to sort of do horse race coverage of Republican politics, like find a new Bobby Jindal or whatever and treat him as like
new Scott Walker
or Scott Walker,
new Jeb Bush,
I
mean, even Giuliani in 08, right?
Yeah, but like, I think that it's important that like, because you have the sort of Christie's and Giuliani's to an extent, and the guys who sort of run in the businessman middle lane, but like every 4 years, there's also someone who wins Iowa, like a Mike Huckabee, or there's someone like a Bobby Jindal who is like a red meat warrior from a red state, who are like, especially in the early going, poll really well because conservatives like love these far right, usually evangelical guys. And then they always sort of wither, like they always wither when it actually comes to we haven't actually gotten to the primaries yet, but it would not surprise me if DeSantis managed to win Iowa and then like flamed out from there. But it also wouldn't surprise me if he flamed out well before then. But this is no one in Republican politics yet has any clue or strategy for how to deal with Trump being in the race. They just don't have any strategy for that. And so while he's in it, all you can do is embarrass yourself further as you like try to stay relevant. So I don't know, not like I have a campaign advice for him, but it is entertaining to watch him, flail around.
It seems ripe for sort of cultivating distrust in the Republican base, because if I'm a Trump supporter, I'm looking at every DeSantis guy being like, hey, you're like dependent on basically my guy getting taken down legally.
Yeah.
And don't act like that's not what you're thinking.
And he's still, and yet DeSantis though still won't really go at Trump.
No,
he
I
really
know.
Won't.
And that's what I mean about none of them have any clue how to deal with Trump as long as he remains viable, because they can't even decide at the most basic level. They can't decide like, I mean, it's the exact same dance we saw them do when Trump first ran, which is like today we're going to like only have good things to say about Trump because we assume that he will quit and endorse us. And then or it's like now we're gonna like go on the attack, which doesn't work because I think I personally, again, not to give Donald Trump campaign advice, but I think it's crazy that he wants to skip the debates because Donald Trump debating a bunch of Republican politicians is by far the most likable Donald Trump that exists
Ever,
by far. And that did more to win him the election than anything else besides the nomination of Hillary Clinton.
I will never forget where I was watching Ted Cruz try to go after New York City, right? And say like New York values and all that crap. I mean, both nasally, him and DeSantis. And Trump just got really quiet after being a trash talker the whole goddamn debate. And he goes, on 9/11, I was there. And like, well, maybe we'll find that. It was one of those moments where I was like, oh my God, like he knows exactly
Amateurs.
right. He'll attack. And then he's like invoking 9/11, just ruining and then he goes, and one of the greatest conservatives of all time, William F. Buckley, came out. Let's watch it, Bradley. I mean, come on. Bradley found that really quickly. Great job. I don't know. This is a bit of a throwback, obviously, but to me, this moment
pre-beard Ted. Just trigger
Ted
warning.
Cruz.
This is Ted Cruz before he had facial hair, so you're getting it sort of without any sort of medium.
You get to see the bubble chin. What's going on there?
I think most people know exactly what New York values are.
I am from New York.
Well, you're from New York, so you might not. But I promise you, in the state of South Carolina,
look at Trump's face.
They do.
He's so hurt.
And listen, there are many, many wonderful, wonderful working men and women in the state of New York. But everyone understands that the values in New York City are socially liberal or pro-abortion or pro-gay marriage, focused around money and the media. And I guess I can frame it another way. Not a lot of conservatives come out of Manhattan. I'm just saying.
Conservatives actually do come out of Manhattan, including William F. Buckley and others, just so you understand. And New York is a great place. It's got great people. It's got loving people, wonderful people. When the World Trade Center came down, I saw something that no place on earth could have handled more beautifully, more humanely than New York.
I mean,
two 110-story buildings come crashing down.
Well, just go to the end because I want to see Cruz's face. This is a bit of an edit. All right, here we go. Just go to it because Cruz's face is he does a little. He looks like he's peeing his pants.
Saw them come down, and we saw more death, and even the smell of death. Nobody understood it, and it was with us for months. The smell, the air, and we rebuilt downtown Manhattan. And everybody in the world watched, and everybody in the world loved New York and loved New Yorkers. And I have to tell you, that was a very insulting statement that Ted made.
And so, again, I say it's insanity that he thinks he shouldn't debate.
Yep.
Like that he thinks he shouldn't debate Republicans. That he thinks he shouldn't debate Ron DeSantis.
Right.
Like all the guy
for the general, yeah.
I mean, in the general, sure. But seriously, he will.
Well, they'd love it too. I mean, I saw that DeSantis was saying today something along the lines of, you got to show up. You got to show up. And I think he must have a sense that he's not going to.
Yeah, if I'm DeSantis, I'm praying he is not going to show up.
Exactly.
Are you kidding me? Yeah,
yes.
You're right, Alex. I was kind of like, well, what's the incentive? But I mean, I feel like I want him to show up because we're going to cover the debate.
So it's funny. It's funny too because Fox. It's also clear how desperate all of them are because Ronna McDaniel is making entreaties, like begging him to show up, and he's basically not committing to her.
Yeah.
Martha McCallum, who's co-handling it, essentially did a to the camera pitch, being like, "It's a great opportunity for you, Mr. President."
Yeah.
And apparently, sources told like Politico Playbook or Punchbowl, one of the two, that like. He's considering he wants to potentially go and sit in the audience.
Oh wow! That would be a really strong power move, honestly.
They were like the debate committee and like Fox, like they're not sure if they would like let him do that or if it would be like a security nightmare. But apparently, like he's mentioned it a few times, being like, "What if I just sat there and watched?"
Well,
them?
he has a wrestling background. He's literally going to come in with a chair.
Exactly. Like they do not. I think and what I say, they don't know how to counter him. Like at this point, they know what they're dealing with, but they still don't know how to counter him.
No.
Because this is his background. His background is entertainment. His background is talk radio and wrestling and television. And like he's just better at this than all of them are. And so, again, if I'm Ron DeSantis, I'm like hoping he does not remember that he's actually much better on television than all the rest of these guys.
Oh yeah.
God Bless the USA comes on. Oh my God, that's Donald Trump's music.
And it would be YMCA. Wouldn't it be?
He goes up on stage, just boots one of them out of their podium, and be like, "All right."
Remember when he
Get out of here, Burgum.
Remember when he was coming on the stage at the RNC and there was like the shadow of him and he emerged?
that moment like gave me like bad goosebumps in the moment, because that was when Ted was there were like all this talk about Ted maybe doing something at the convention to try to take the nomination away, and Trump wasn't supposed to come out till Sunday, but he came out on Friday night to introduce his wife. Melania, and it was like first you hear the music and then you see his shadow projected
with that hair.
And and he came on and it was basically the message was like, "Daddy's here, let's stop all the games," okay?
Right.
That was going to be that whole convention. That was going to be again like that was going to be Ted Cruz's like profile and courage, and he just did nothing again. Like he just
of course. I mean for all the talk we've in the political cycles I've been sentient for, I feel like there have been 6 different storylines about convention revolts, as if we're still like living in party machine days.
Yeah.
But this is the first time in my lifetime that it's possible for the RNC, if the guy's convicted, like
certainly more
actually
possible than it has been in many, many years. Yeah.
Totally. And still they might have a better chance like against the Democrats if they don't do that and Trump's still on the ballot. I don't even know, because his supporters would lose it. But
absolutely,
as like would make sense. I mean, it's anti-democratic, obviously. But before we let you go, Alex, I just wanted to ask your opinion quickly here on the latest ProPublica reporting about Clarence Thomas. And if the Democrats are going to do anything at all in the Senate, once they're in recess right now, right, Bradley? The Senate, once they come, both the Senate and the House, it's August. So once they come back in the fall, if they're going to do anything about Clarence Thomas going on at least 38 destination vacations paid for by these billionaires, according to ProPublica's tabulations, dozens of private jet flights, or PJs as they're called, if you're in the know, helicopter rides, VIP seating and passes to college sports. Of course, Clarence Thomas likes college sports where the players don't get paid. And all these other like golf resorts and stuff paid for by the blockbuster billionaire and oil baron Novelli. This guy, David Sokol, another top, executive rich guy, in addition to Harlan Crow, all these people that he's met through the Horatio Alger Association. It just seems like once he became a Supreme Court justice, it was open season. And then he learned in 2004, after the LA Times reported on Harlan Crow in particular, because he had disclosed some of that stuff. They reported on the disclosures. He just stopped disclosing. Then
I think a very quiet, bipartisan opposition to exposing the lifestyle that people like that live. And I think it was sort of apparent in the Kavanaugh hearings with how little appetite there was for even asking questions about his debts being disappeared and the gifts he received and things like that. There was just very little appetite for digging into that stuff. For
obvious reasons.
Yeah, yeah. And so what I would imagine is there will be a renewed push for some sort of I think there might be like a carrot and a stick thing where they threaten to do something to the court in order to get them to self-police more, or at least pretend to self-police more. But I think like you're not going to see the sort of action that would actually lead to results, which would be like admitting that the Senate has the ability to not just impeach justices, but like to make it a lot more difficult for someone to remain on the court if it is decided that they are cartoonishly corrupt.
Right. But they clearly have that power, and it would be electorally beneficial too.
Oh my God, yeah.
Because for if you're worried about a certain level of electoral kind of not nihilism, but just like the beaten down nature of feeling like, I want to protect abortion, but what can I do with my vote because of these priests that sit until their dying day on the court and can do whatever they want and impose rules on me. I mean, even the student debt thing, like how deactivating, how demobilizing is that, where Biden announces it and then just they decide, nope, never mind.
Well, yeah. And like I've been saying,
targeting them in that way would be at least like messaging wise saying we're trying to do the best that we can to rein in these corrupt psychos.
Yeah, and that's what I feel like I've been saying this for a while now, but the Democrats do not have any coherent messaging on what they're going to do about the courts and about the judiciary. They just don't, because they can't they're scared to promise to do anything real. And so therefore, like if you cannot tell your supporters, here's what we're going to do about it, you cannot expect them to just keep showing up and supporting you, right? And I don't see that. I think that the protestations that like there's only so much we can do. Those ring hollow when there's all these avenues that they're just not pursuing. So I don't know. I mean, I really don't know, but they need to think of something they can do, because it does just engender this enormous cynicism, like you were saying. If once everyone learns this stuff about Clarence Thomas and about the Supreme Court and nothing is done about it, like all that can do is engender cynicism.
And like among the people who have given them money, because it's like, you get all these email notifications about this. Like the one thing that they can do is flood your email inbox with donation solicitations.
With donation requests. Yeah, exactly.
But people are going to like that actually like raises people's consciousness about these things. And then when they don't actually get addressed, or there's some sort of like abstruse reasoning behind why nothing gets done on it, like, you're going, there's only
it's going to demoralize. It demoralizes
exactly.
people. It demoralizes people. Yeah.
Totally.
So, I don't know. Yeah.
And it's just amazing that the no one has faith in the Supreme Court as an institution, except for really the Democrats, which is embedded in their not doing anything about this, which is that eventually it'll fix itself. Eventually. Eventually Alito will die. Eventually Clarence Thomas will die. And hopefully the coin flip will be heads this time, and we'll have a Democrat as president, and we'll be able to put someone in, and the institution will fix itself. It is an organism that is constantly reproducing justice. That's genuinely how they feel about the court. Yeah.
And also there's also this really powerful sense, pervasive in Washington, pervasive among Democrats, and I think like not just on the Supreme Court, but especially in terms of the Supreme Court, this pervasive belief that like the cure is worse than the disease, or like in almost anything you can think of, they will say it might sound good if we did something about the problem, but what if that had negative consequences? And like that's literally just like their go-to line for everything. And I think that's like there's only so many times you can go to that well as we learn more and more about how the Supreme Court works.
That's also like the Republican argument against government. Like,
yeah, it is.
It
literally
anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That is a great point. Just how institutionalism, in a way, is the more like watered down version of being anti-government, because the institutions shouldn't be in and of themselves pure and like holy. They just have to be constantly held accountable and updated too by the democracy, by the people that feel the effects of those institutions. But
yeah, right.
Anyway, Alex Perrine, always a pleasure, as Sam likes to say. I say one of the BFFs of the show. That's how I'm going to sign off with you, and also of the AP newsletter, contributing editor at the New Republic, host of the Politics of Everything, the podcast that you do at the New Republic. Thanks so much, Alex. Really appreciate your time today.
Of course, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. All right, guys, quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Francesca Fiorentini for more on this Casual Friday. Trying to do Matt's job. We are back with Francesca Fiorentini of the Bituation Room. One of my favorites. How you doing, Francesca?
It's good. Yeah, I'm okay. It's Friday. I'm chilling. I think I'm gonna check out the picket lines here in LA. The baby is gonna come with, just sort of as like a sympathy attachment. And I think it'll really get to Zaslav's heart, you know? It'll just melt his heart.
Yeah. Is she cute enough?
Wow. Are you kidding me? Is she cute enough? No. Yeah, of course she's cute enough. I'm still debating, like, you know, late term abortion, like 10 months into it. We'll see.
Well, that's your right.
Yep.
As every leftist would affirm.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm sending this to a Fox News assignment editor right now.
Gosh, you're a double agent here, Bradley. Knew it all along. What's going on in the Bituation Room? You want to plug that right out the gate?
Everybody, I mean, every week, comedians, activists, organizers, experts coming on the show, and it's been really good. We've been talking about the strike a lot. We've been thrown down. We're going to talk, actually, I do like a bonus show today for the patrons. I'm going to talk about very interesting, some of that China money that might be influencing some nonprofits in the United States and some like people we might consider comrades. Does that matter? So Alex Reed Ross, who's written about this, is going to talk to me in a little bit. That's at 1:00 Pacific. But also, guys, if you like stand-up, I'm going to be doing stand-up in San Francisco at the Punchline on October 17th with comedian and my beloved Matt Lieb. So you guys should come check it out if you're a fan.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Wait, what? San Francisco when again, did you say?
October 17th. It's a Tuesday. It's a very hot day. Very difficult to book a Tuesday. I don't know if you guys know that. But no, yeah, come out if you're in SF or the Bay and you want to, check out some stand-up. But no, man, things are good. I'm glad to go to the picket line. It's a randomly like not sweltering day in Los Angeles. So I think you're going to have a lot of literally fair weather picketers coming out.
But those are the ones that fill in the gaps, the fair weatherers, right? And
we do.
And that's important too, just solidarity in numbers.
Absolutely. Also, I'm not in either union, so this is also my attempt to be like, hey, when this is all over, remember I was here. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right?
hire me.
Sam was on the picket lines yesterday in New York.
It'd be nice if it like turned into like a sort of a solidaristic union or networking opportunity. Like I watched the A24 movie Talk to Me, and I was happy to see that because A24 has complied with the union demand, so they're allowed to go forward with productions through this.
That's right.
And to me, it's like I don't know. I don't need movies from the studios. I don't need another movie from a studio that doesn't want to comply with. Because I mean, I don't watch many movies anyway. But like, if you're a studio that's not wanting to give into union demands here and want to use AI, like, I don't need your product anymore. I'll just go watch A24 and whatever studios will fall in line. Yeah,
I think the problem is like where the fact that the streamers now just have all of that content when it's not in theaters.
And like those, I mean, the capitalization of those giant companies it comes from the robbery of the workers previously. So it bears it's useful to and worthwhile to like claw as much of that back. But as far as me as a consumer, like I don't care about their products.
Totally.
So you're not into Marvel? Is that what you're trying to say?
I have not seen a Marvel movie since like the original Iron Man.
Oh really?
Yeah, I
you
just
didn't even
don't
see
care
all
about
the
none of that.
crossover ones.
No.
I knew I liked you, Matt, for like your political takes, but also same. I was dragged to Spider-Man, the last one, whatever the one. It was like Zendaya was cool, or Zendaya, my bad. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna get a lot of hate, but not into Marvel. That being said, VFX folks are voting to unionize.
Oh yeah,
I'm not sure if they already have, but
well, they're very exploited. I mean, like so much of the work that they do just doesn't. It gets scrapped. They're overworked. They're underpaid.
And the crunch is crazy with Marvel because they specifically Marvel will basically be like. Marvel sometimes, according to some VFX people who like spoke under the condition of anonymity because like they'd lose their jobs if they said this stuff to reporters, was like they'll look at it and be like, "Can you do this faster?" And they'll be like, "It's going to look terrible," and they're like, "We don't care."
See the Flash
more.
Yeah, it's like even like Doctor Strange or any of those with like a lot of special effects or the Black Widow movie. It's like they literally don't care if it looks good. They need to make the installment calendar function. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, as someone who's come from content, I have to say the like downward pressure of this general market and turning everything into just, like unregulated internet content that is, just feeding the algorithm is particularly sad. And also it's a threat to my job, which is to make that content.
Oh, we are all content makers here.
Yeah.
Proudly so. Yeah. But it is. It's a threat to free expression. I think that like and to art in that way. Because when it becomes so financialized, that hurts the art and it hurts the workers. When ostensibly these studios and streamers are supposed to be producing like a modern form of art, which is television and movies, even if some of it is crap. But
I think what has to happen is someone has to, like, once A-listers get the crap beat out of them, like, that's when it's go time. Like, I do want to see, like, Ron Perlman, like, throwing fists. I want to see Billy Crystal actually, like, get aggressed upon in the same way that, like, hotel workers here in LA have been aggressed upon. It's not going to happen.
Right.
But that might be a breaking point.
I do think...
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, like that all this is happening at the same time. It feels like there's a lot of work to be done because our discourse isn't conducive to like drawing the connections between a UPS driver and an actor like Ron Perlman. But like the truth is people are being screwed by the same structures, which is just ownership.
Yeah.
Taking more and more because they can.
Right.
Yep.
And maybe let's play that. Speaking of strike actions, let's play this UPS or not the UPS, the Jim Cramer UAW
Teamsters,
thing.
yeah.
Teamsters thing. So here's Jim Cramer, who has what'd you say?
I can't remember if he's talking about the Teamsters or
no,
UAW.
it's UAW.
Oh right, because
yeah.
of Fane. Yeah.
So yeah, Jim Cramer has just been on a complete heater of horrible anti-labor takes. I mean, he has horrible.
It's his job.
That's part's his job, but he's also ostensibly supposed to be giving investment advice, and he's bad at that too. Just like look up his track record. There have been analyses of how bad his investment advice has been over the years.
Still on television.
Still on
however.
television.
My God.
Just getting
Beautiful.
all these retirees to give their money away to the next fad. That's Jim Cramer's job. And
where did he stand on crypto? Was that like, sorry, I've got to do the...
That's a good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. I'm not sure. But even if he's just doing traditional, like, investments in that way, the analysis of his advice has been overwhelmingly negative in terms of results that he's providing for people. And again, he's an entertainer. But like, if you're 80 years old and you're watching CNBC, you might not know that. And you might internalize messages like this. This is him talking about the UAW, which has a new president, Sean Fain, and it's the United Auto Workers Union. They represent 150,000 employees, so it's a very large union, and they are likely headed towards, potentially not, but they may be headed towards a strike because the contract expires between them and the automakers on September 14th at midnight. So this is Jim Cramer talking about that possibility.
Trucks and the incredible Facebook performance by Sean Fain yesterday, where he just called the Stellantis offer trash. We're going to have, right when we start talking about the presidential election, I think the biggest strike our country has had in years, which is the UAW.
You think that's going to happen?
Yeah.
You don't think Gene Sperling can talk both sides off of ledges?
No, Gino can't do it because this guy who runs the UAW reminds me of Earl Browder. I mean, he's like a longshoreman union. The stevedores.
Well, today's the 100th day of the writers on strike.
Right.
And that rhetoric isn't cooling down after Friday's apparently failed meeting.
No, I mean, these things matter tremendously. The auto strike is going to, I have Dana on tonight.
When?
Not Zool. I have Zool
September
on tomorrow.
14th
Dana
is the
tonight. September 14th. But the fellow who's running it is just going around telling, like, if you walked in there, he would tell you. I mean, he says horrible things. He's talking about a kleptocracy, that the people who own these stocks are just bad people. I mean,
parasites.
Americans own these. I mean, it's like it's your 401k.
Yeah, I haven't been focused.
Oh, you've got to focus on this guy.
Can we just
this guy is just.
Pause it there for a second.
my eye off the ball. I haven't been focused.
Like, we don't need to be moralistic about it. The people like making money by owning stock is a parasitical relationship to compared to like the workers that actually build these cars. Like,
it's definitionally passive.
And so like this is what Cramer exists to do. Like that. I think like buy this stock, buy that stock is like something he occupies his time with. But he's there to represent the interests of investors at large.
Right.
And anytime labor gets more of that pie than less, then the investors get less, regardless of like which company they put the chips on.
Yeah.
But like, how much is he actually making a year? Like to be so protective, and like the media is great at this, right? But like someone like Cramer, I don't know, $500,000, $1 million a year. Like, what is he actually making? And he's just protecting like billionaires, someone he's never going to reach, even like, whatever the pockets of.
$5 million a year according to Google, which like
okay, never mind, worth it, totally worth it. How can I get this job? How can I I think it's incredible that look, 10% of the American people own stock. Like 10% of Americans. It's not like a lot of us. I mean, I'm at that age a little bit of like, is it bad I'm not invested anywhere with what little of money that I have? Also, like, am I the last one to have a gun? Those are the two things that sort of like enter my head.
Yeah.
Like, does everyone have a gun? Everyone raise your hand if you've got stock and or a gun.
I think that though, like, your experience is much more similar to our age cohort than
who
people
invests?
above, because the one, we just like don't have disposable income in the way that our parents did, and two, the numbers bear this out, that the like under 40 coalition of people has much less money invested in the stock market than the previous generation. But let's just get this like money quote at the end here from Cramer.
Stocks are just bad people. I mean, Americans own these. I mean, it's like it's in your 401k.
Yeah, I haven't been focused.
Oh, you've got to focus on this guy.
All right.
This guy is he was made for our show.
We should bring him on?
Oh, I want him on. Sean Fain.
Ooh, I want to see
He should
that.
be like a co-host.
Yeah, go on.
He is so electric. He is third rail. He is using rhetoric that Elizabeth Warren would say, keep your mouth shut.
Really?
Oh, Elizabeth Warren would say, "Keep your mouth shut." My favorite thing is how I mean, so he's a Bernie Sanders type, sure, great, but like my favorite thing too is how Elizabeth Warren is the ultimate villain of
all those people
those
hate
Wall
her
Street
so
people.
much.
They
Yeah.
hate her.
They hate
Everyone on Wall Street, vile, like just hatred towards her, which they've now somewhat extended to Lena Khan in the form of
she's
dozens and dozens of
That's a
Wall
good point,
Street
yeah.
Wall Street Journal op-eds crapping on her. But go ahead, Matt.
Jim Cramer thinks that Sean Fain is a combo of like Malcolm X and Freddy Krueger, like the most electrifying orator, but also like haunts people's dreams.
Yeah, he's the chupacabra of the finance world.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
but he's also kind of saying like debate me, and also like, oh, he'd get clicks. Like there's a little bit of that in there.
Well, he's still
Which
a
I'm
media
like-
guy at the end. This is Sean Fain. Here we go.
Yeah, so this is what Kramer was talking about here with regards to he didn't just call it trash, he dramatized it.
The union Babadook here. Sean Fain.
Everything they're looking for in this document is about concessions. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do with their proposal. I'm going to file it
what is he gonna
in
do?
its proper place.
Oh, no.
That's where it belongs, the trash, because that's what it is. Everything they're looking
Oh my Hell yeah, Sean.
And I mean,
Jim Cramer wetting
Fran's
himself.
so afraid.
Jim Cramer
But
wetting
Dell did the
himself.
same thing. This is how it starts.
Last week, David Griscom and I had Darna Noor on a Left Reckoning, and we talked about Sean Fain and talking about all sorts of stuff that I really like to hear a union leader talk about, which is like one of the persons saying like you got to get them to respect the 40-hour work week, and he's like, yeah, actually we got to move down to 32-hour work week. We should not be wasting so much of our lives earning profit for a boss. And it's like, damn, man, like this is. And we saw this with Mick Lynch and the RMT strikes in the UK, but as somebody who is a socialist propagandist as a job, it is so nice to have to be able to substitute union leaders for politicians because look, there's a lot of politicians I love, Bernie down to the squad. I think they do a lot of good work, but it's a lot more clear when it's people actually fighting to put food on the table of their members. Because there is of course politics that have to be done here too, but it's a lot more direct.
Well, they don't have the same calculations. We don't know about backroom deal. Like I saw, criticism of AOC for endorsing Bernie and stuff like that, and we don't know what concessions she got. We'll never know. Probably we don't know what those negotiations.
Which is one of the problems with that strategy, though. Like it's alienated from the DSA should have some committee that is if we, and I think we need to grow DSA more so we that's worth AOC's time to have that level of accountability. But like that is a problem where like if you're making based on you as an individual politician these sorts of, and it's somewhat unavoidable, but if you're making these decisions and the movement has no idea what you're doing, that is not a good situation to be in.
I'm in agreement. My point is just that's what that's why
right.
politicians are limiting in that way. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think in union memberships, like there's no political litmus test. They're of all stripes, right? There might be Trumpers there. But what's the contract? What are we getting for it? And that's not to say like reach across the aisle and actually the far right and the far left can come together. No. But it does keep everything a lot more concrete and accountable. And that's the thing with like, organizations like the DSA or the lack of a movement is there's no direct line of accountability. And, you could argue there was a little bit in terms of the Sunrise Movement, a little bit of Justice Dems when it came to like that whole, remember the working groups between the Bernie Biden camps?
Mm-hmm.
It's better than the nothing that preceded it, certainly.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. It's a step, but I do think like we kind of lost the thread and there still isn't a movement.
But I think this sort of stuff, like, I think this is what we were missing. Like, I don't think a movement can come just from electoral season.
Yep.
Right.
I think we need, like, actually these sorts of people to set the agenda. So then all of a sudden you have Marianne Williamson and Corbyn or anybody like trying to get attention off this stuff for the electoral season, because that's when people pay attention. Set the agenda on this instead of like should the 3 kids in Utah who want trans affirming care, should we bully them with the governor's office?
Yeah, right.
I just back to finance. Like there was this really scary article that came out in early 2020 when like Warren and Bernie were jumping out strong. I mean, I don't know if Warren really ever jumped out strong. Oh, okay. But like, you know, when it was like clear that they were getting a lot more traction and especially Bernie, right? And it was like unnamed Wall Street execs who were like, look, I think Donald Trump tried to overthrow this nation and a democratic election, and I don't agree with any of that, but yes, I would vote for and prefer a second Donald Trump term than Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders.
Oh, totally.
That will always persist. So I just, like, if we ever get traction, if and when we really actually have, we win that primary, watch how finance and Wall Street will completely throw down with the fascists time and time again.
Every time. Speaking of presidential elections, I wanted to play this DeSantis clip here. Curious about your womanly perspective on this, Francesca, because this is like, you know, a way that I guess conservatives like to conceive of their marriages, right? As being traditional, and the woman doing wifely duties, and the man doing the manly duties, like shitting the bed on the campaign trail, that kind of thing. This is Ron DeSantis with his wife. And she here speaks about when she was undergoing some sort of medical treatment. She had cancer, okay? This is how Ron supported her. This seems incredibly basic to me, but curious what your take is on this level of, you know, giving that he gave to his wife going through cancer.
That comes upon your family, and so I had to rely on him in a really big way. There were times when I was going through 6 rounds of chemotherapy, I was going through 6 weeks of radiation and 3 surgeries, and I couldn't get up. I couldn't do very many things. I couldn't pick up my 3-year-old when they wanted me to hold them, and I had to tell them a little bit of a fib that mommy's arm hurts and I have to go back to the hospital because it's about my arm, and it wasn't about the arm. And to this day, they have no idea of what I've been through, and I'll tell them.
To have to tell your
they don't know. I've never told my kids about the cancer battle because they don't think that they're old enough to really understand what that means, and so at some point we will tell them. But you asked the question about what kind of a dad he is. When you're going through opportunities where you can barely scrape yourself off the bathroom floor because you're sick, and your children are calling for you and you physically cannot get to them, but you have somebody who was not only running the state of Florida and was there for the people of his state, he was there for me. And he was there to go pick up my kids when I couldn't. And he did it with humility, and he did it with love.
Weird.
And I'll tell you what,
I'll pick
can't
him
ask
up.
for a better husband than that.
Yeah, you know, I mean,
How does it feel? How does it feel to hear her say that? I mean,
well, look, that's, you know, in sickness and in health, that's what you sign up for. I mean, and so she's not only my wife, she's my best friend, and she's the person that I would want. I've always dreamed to be the mother of my children, and so, you know, this is just what you do. I mean, you know.
What a sacrifice. What a sacrifice that he made.
In Florida, on the way home from work, yeah, I got him.
I know, I was the governor, but I still picked up the kids.
In
when
Florida,
you were
I picked up my children. In Florida.
Yeah, but back to woke Disney. You see, here's the thing: Ariel was never meant to be black, and like
we're seeing Ariel as a trans, and she's a mermaid.
Yeah, it's very radical politics under the sea. There's a transgender agenda under the sea. That's actually part of the song when they sing it. Fish can, in fact, change genders, and I think we need to talk more about that. But she said, my kids. Now, from what I just, sleuthed on Wikipedia, I was like, wait, does she have kids from another marriage? That she's like, my kids? Like, what's going on? No.
The favor would make a little more sense.
They're their kids. Also, favor, the way you said, like.
I mean, I said that, but yeah.
Right,
yeah.
they're your kids. So anyway, he picked up the kids. And he's just going, well, anyway, that's what I signed up for. And here's what I watched this clip and I'm like, yo, that's the face of someone. Look, I don't know for sure, but that's the face of someone who knows deep down they're kind of a POS and they definitely cheated on her. Like, I'm just saying, because if you're really a great dad, if you're like a great dad and you were there for, you're like, I love this woman and she was so strong and she battled cancer and she got through it and our kid, all that stuff. Instead, you're like, oh God, don't tell her about the time you partied with Matt Gaetz. And,
the thing I see though, Francesca, is like the fact that he seems uncomfortable with her getting the opportunity to speak in this way. Like he doesn't like that.
She's much. I will say, I watched I unfortunately watched 15 out of the 20 minutes of this interview. She is way better at politicking than he is.
Apparently, she's the one who's been the Lady Macbeth right behind the scenes.
She's very well spoken. She's very well spoken. And when he talks, I'm like, wait, it almost seems like she is the one running for president, and he's sort of her lackey.
She can't because she needs to be with the kids. That's what women do, and only in extreme circumstances, when they're getting chemotherapy and radiation, do they not do their wifely duties. And it's really big of Ron to have acted a little bit like a woman, and spend time with the kids. That's for women.
Did I stop by a high school kegger a little bit on the way to and from?
That's when he spends time
with
children. Yeah, that's usually the context.
Can we that was a NBC News reporter who asked that question.
Mm-hmm.
She was the one, by the way, who did the Fetterman interview when she was like, he was extremely cognitively impaired.
Interesting, because this is like journalism for adult babies.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
I think that was on the Today
A relevant
Show.
question is, you were first lady. Who paid for that cancer insurance? And do you think maybe we should extend that? Cancer is horrible. To use it as a propaganda device to get fucking Ron DeSantis elected is despicable to me. Yeah. And to be like, oh yeah, he was there to pick up the kids from soccer practice. I'm sorry that we are so far removed from anything relevant to people's lives.
Yeah.
But it's just it's emotional. So NBC News. That should have been Newsmax. What are we doing?
Well, that's a daytime. I think it was aired on the Today Show, right?
The preview was aired on the Today Show, but that specifically, the longer interview was
It was a nightly news segment.
It was the NBC News special aired. That segment as well as the DeSantis one-on-one interview were both on Lester Holt's.
Get to know the candidates are horrible pieces.
They're terrible.
Journalism.
Yeah, they're terrible.
I don't care. Let's talk about how Ron DeSantis is overseeing this deep discrimination against gay and trans kids in the state. Let's talk about his past with allowing for torture in front of his face, as he's supposed to be the advocate
for wanting to cut Medicaid or Medicare, right? And both of those programs. But I think that's such a great pivot of how did you survive that? What was it like? What was the experience in and out of the hospital? Were the bills piling up?
How do you
all
feel,
of that.
Does it make you empathize with your constituents who write into the governor's office saying, hey, I'm going broke because I got cancer?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it also proves that they're trying so hard to make Ron DeSantis a formidable, a couth Republican opponent. And they can't. And every time he's offered hey, here's a child with an ice cream cone, be normal, dude. He's just like, why ain't so much sugar? And they're like, oh God.
Yeah, Bradley's gonna pull up the latest retail. Well, we've played this many times, but it never gets old. This is
actually a bit of a longer clip of him doing the have a beer with Ron thing, and he just doesn't really know how to talk to other people.
Look, I've been at parties and I've been exactly like this. This is the most DeSantis has been relatable to me.
but relatable is not what Republican voters want.
Of course, yeah. No, they
want strong
party
man.
king.
Trump. They want the guy that's gonna be like, I'm the president. I'm the decider.
There's a new cage around back. Go get it, guys.
Not the guy that's socially
he can definitely
anxious.
provide that.
I would literally never share a beer with you.
Yeah.
So far.
Oh God.
And we got I've been here. Staying late. I mean, what time is it? It's gotta be past 10 o'clock.
God, I gotta go.
It's too late to call my wife. They're all sleeping right now. Yeah, 11 o'clock. Yeah, no. I mean, got to do events, but like we're usually like pumpkins once we get to 10 at night. As long as we get the kids down, my wife and I, we craft. That's awesome.
Oh gosh, I'd enjoy that course.
We're gonna see you guys at the fair and everything like that. So we're gonna go to Brenda's, and I'm doing.
Yeah. I spent 40 minutes with my staff determining what beer I should drink. It's got to be cheap, but it can't be Bud Light because that's for the trans. So I got this Coors Light, and I really want to get out of here.
I love that construction. Looking at my phone for the time, implying that I heavily do not want to be here and would rather be
Yes.
asleep.
Usually I am asleep.
Then very matter-of-factly saying, okay, so we'll see you later, I guess, right at the fair.
Yeah,
I'm gonna see it another time.
I've been in that situation. You don't drink a beer faster than when you're like not wanting to be there, but using it as a way to like stop your mouth from just saying whatever comes into it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But that's not but that's your quality, Matt, as someone who loves like books and video games. This is a person who's running for president. So
yeah, Matt's just like, hey, you guys rather be reading right now? You're like,
I was playing Resident Evil recently, and in Florida, we hate zombies.
But it's just for the camera. First of all, we are in a conference room of a hotel, the least exciting place. There's not even
the lighting is horrible.
There's the lighting. Exactly. I'm saying there's not even mood lighting. There's not even little like
where do they get that carpet
lights
from?
Exactly. Surrounded by cameras, given a Coors just like in their hand, and they have to chit chat, and he cannot do it.
No.
At all.
I mean, to be clear, when we have like meetups ahead of the Majority Report live shows, I'm way more affable than that. I'm just talking about other situations.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. We believe you. I believe you for sure.
Yes. Well, I've experienced it.
Okay, Ken. This is some like we're gonna
Sam's
break
not
into.
here.
We're gonna. Did you say because you're high or you're hot?
I don't know. I think it was some interference. I'm not sure. I said hi.
He said hi.
Oh, I thought you said because I'm hot, and I was like, all right,
I mean,
go
that probably
off,
helps too,
Matt.
yeah. I like my chances over DeSantis.
I mean, anyone.
No,
should.
here's the thing. He can't work a room. You know, where you got to get in the room. You're like, hey, how's your wife? Nice. Hey, how's it hanging? Oh, let me touch them. You know, like there's, sorry.
But yeah, I really wish I was home right now. I'm really tired.
Yeah, we're usually asleep right now. Anyway.
Wow, it's so early. I want to go to sleep.
Do you guys like sleep?
Every
Cool.
human does that, right?
Does everyone
Sometimes
else
I'm
sleep?
sleeping, sometimes I'm awake, and I kind of alternate between those two states.
Beer, wow, beer.
Wow,
Interesting
beer.
taste.
We usually drink an Aperol Spritz. You ever heard of a Spritz? No, Spritz is for
Also-
you. Yeah, it's lighter.
One other connection that I learned just glancing over DeSantis' wife's
He drinks
Wikipedia.
Aperols.
They
Yeah,
got married.
totally.
Guess where they got married?
Where?
In Florida. Where would you get married in Florida? That might be ironic. For,
Mar-a-Lago?
Might be ironic for DeSantis.
Yeah,
That's
gotta
a
be
good guess.
Mar-a-Lago. It's gotta
Disney.
be- oh,
He
the
got
Disney
married at
Castle.
Disney. And so, like, this anti-Disney guy who got married at Disney is also like referencing pumpkins, which is my understanding is a reference to Cinderella. Like, this guy can't get Disney out of the brain.
Oh, he's a Disney adult. That's why he's so upset by the wokeness, right? It's just it feels like a betrayal.
He is. He definitely has like one of those little mini backpacks, you know, like Minnie Mouse mini backpacks where you're like, really? He's got like a keychain, the whole thing.
Yeah.
He's got the ears.
And he doesn't even do Disney adulting in the fun way that I've heard of, which is just like getting high and going on the rides. That sounds fun. He's
I
probably
think it's
like,
microdosing shrooms and then going on Toad's Magic Wild Ride or.
I mean,
like
why
that.
not both?
I do think that all of our
Cost-prohibitive.
politicians. What?
I said it's cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna be thinking about that $350 I spent to get through the gate the entire
That's
trip.
true. That's true. That's true. But not for Ron. He's dead sober, grimacing as he goes down Splash Mountain.
He has passes. He has like annual passes that they had to like rip up in front of the little kids.
I would love to see the picture of Ron, you know, that they take on the roller coasters at like the peak moment of thrill. And
Yes.
it's like you can buy it for $20 afterwards. I'd like to see those of Ron's, you know, mouth wide open.
I'd like to buy them.
How many
honestly.
dimples does he have? Just like without looking.
A bunch, but they're not in the places you'd expect. not in the right places. I'll say that. Anyway.
Oh, it's fun because he's gonna lose, guys.
Yeah, I really love piling on because he's a horrible human being. I don't know who I hate more, him or Trump. At least Trump's fun sometimes.
And the other thing is they'll never run Casey. Like, even if that were the smarter move for Florida, for the country, if, she used to be a broadcaster, whatnot, or a host, like, she could crush, but she will never be able to because she's married to that deadweight Ron DeSantis.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Francesca.
Anyway, support your strong men.
I'm
Emma,
letting you go.
Bradley, Matt, let me go. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been real.
No, yeah, I mean, again, check out the Bituation Room. It's great stuff.
Thank you.
Big fan. Francesca's the best.
Thank you.
All right, and check out, if you're in San Francisco, October 17th.
Yes, I think there's a link maybe somewhere in the description, but bye. Hope to see you guys again.
All right, see you soon.
Bye, Francesca.
Bye. All right, guys, with that, we're going to wrap up the free part of this show. Head into the fun half. We'll take your calls, read your IMs, have some fun. The number 646-257-3920. Reminder, guys, Sunday is Michael Brooks's 40th birthday. We will be celebrating his memory on Monday. So tune in for that. But before, happy birthday, Michael, on Sunday. So check that out on Monday. It'll be a great show. Matt, what's happening on Left Reckoning?
Left Reckoning, we had Caleb Brooks on to talk about degrowth on Sunday. Patreon.com/Left Reckoning. David and I are going to be taking issue with not the live commenters of Majority Report, who are great, but the YouTube commenters on the video that we posted last night about the woman who was complaining and got showed on Fox News because she said the American dream is gone because her kids can't afford rent. And I must say, I look at the comments to that video, and I'm so disgusted by the amount of people who say that's what you get for voting Republican, or maybe blame Reagan and Bush. That like, you think the only response to that is that you behave yourself better on election day, instead of like saying broadly this is a problem where people are growing in awareness that the water around them is growing to a boiling point. I think shows a real deficiency in and I don't think it's the people who watch the show live. I think it's more the drive-by commenters. That video has got like 100,000 views.
Yeah.
But like, we got a lot of work to do with regards to feel. And look, all sides like vote shame. I think the people that like are very superior about that, I only vote Green Party, and people who vote Democrat support imperialism, I think they're bad. But like, this vote shaming by Democrat partisans is just like, man, you guys aren't even close. Like, the idea that if we would have had more Clinton terms or more Obama terms, that rent wouldn't be like basically what it is now. I find
it's
it
a
hard
shallow
to believe.
understanding of politics.
It's really bad.
And it's not. You have to be on the left. Be interested in ameliorating suffering for everybody, not just your political
and you can't blame
allies.
You can't blame propagandized people for being propagandized. Like everybody who makes those sort of comments would probably feel in their own little social group that they're the Noam Chomsky that understands how the media is lying to people, and yet you react to people who have been misled their entire lives by, billion-dollar media organizations, and you just call them idiots. And that's misanthropy. That's where I say you can't be misanthropic and actually be on the left. You're just going to be a reactionary liberal.
Right. And on ESPN, we spoke about the U.S. women's national team's loss, the Republican backlash to it and cheering of it, I should say. Netflix's quarterback series, how awesome that was. We gave our thoughts on it and gave some options for NFL rookies with fantasy upside. YouTube.com/ESPN show. All right, guys, again, the number is 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
You are in for it.
All right, folks, 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Are you ready?
Who sent us this?
Alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boy is And the alpha males are back, 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 back.
Just want to degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back, back.
I take all of it in my throat.
Alpha males are back, 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 back.
Snowflake says what?
The alpha males are back, 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 back.
You are a madman.
And the alpha males are back, back.
Oh no, Sam Cedar! What a fucking nightmare!
Bring back DJ.
Yeah, or a couple of them. Just put them in rotation.
DJ Denner.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break.
That's fucking nonsense. You see white people doing drugs that look worse than normal white people, and all white people look disgusting.
And the alpha males.
Psych. Fuck them. Fuck them. Snowflake says what? Snowflake says what?
A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. Okay, I'm making stupid money. Hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank.
All lives matter. Have you tried doing an impression on a college campus?
I think that there's no reason why reasonable people across the divide can't all agree with this. Psych.
And the alpha males are back, 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 back. And the Africans are black, 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 black African. And the alpha males are black, 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 black. And the Africans are back, 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 back.
When you see Donald Trump out there, doesn't a little part of you think that America deserves to be taken over by jihadists? Keeping it 100.
Can't knock the hustle.
Come on, fuck them, fuck them. Things I do for the bigger game plan. By the way, it's my birthday. Happy birthday to me, Jew boy.
I have a thought experiment for you.
And the alpha males are back, back. Africans are black, black. Alpha males are black, black. Africans are back, back.
Come on. Come on. Come on. Someone needs to pay the price for blasphemy around here.
I am a total pussy.
We are back. We are having some issues right now with the call system, so I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get to calls. We're trying. Matt is hard at work here. For now, we're going to read some IMs, see if we can get it up. Never mind. Get it going. Get it going. Serpent Deflector says, I'm supporting Ron DeSantis for president so he can be an inspiration to us socially anxious kings. Yeah. I get it. Single issue voter. Leach says, I don't disagree with Matt, but where do we draw the line on people needing to take responsibility for their own actions and votes? Of course, people get misled, lied to, etc., but that's no excuse for living ignorantly in their privilege.
It's no. Sorry, I have to cut you off. Like again, like it's not vote. Like just because you voted Democrat every single one of those years, you did not do anything. You did okay. Sorry, you did just barely more by going with the party that like basically has more support to labor and minority groups. But like again, like it's going to take way more than just voting for Democrats. And again, like nowhere. At no point in my politics do I say, oh yeah, the problem here is the people.
Yeah.
Because that goes nowhere. What that does for you is you can feel superior about people and say like, actually, like I just have no patience for this. At no point is my answer to that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's a limit though. Like when you say you can't judge people for being propagandized. Like I judge the people that stormed the Capitol.
Oh yeah, well
I'm sorry.
You need to be
Like,
yes, no, I of course like being ideologically like
being a coup person is different than being just like a standard Republican because there's millions of them, guys.
Again, like but like you're only it's only a variation of like if you are a centrist Democrat, if you're a supporter of like all these people complain about Joe Manchin, you're not a whole lot more different to me than somebody who says like, yeah, I vote for Chris Christie. Like I think it's basically you have a different social circle.
Yeah.
Like mainly. And so like I just focusing on the voting of it is different than saying these people are ideologically committed conservatives, because I do think that people have seen my Twitter feed. I'm not like wearing kid gloves around people that are propaganda.
Totally.
Like, but like and it's for their good and everybody else's that you are direct in like the messaging there. But when people are saying, hey, there's no rent, we can't pay rent here, something's changed. To say
I'm
like,
suffering.
hey,
Yeah.
you voted Reagan, so you don't get to complain, but I voted Bill Clinton, so I do get to complain. I think you're out to fucking lunch. And again, like I don't see where I don't even know what good it does besides.
It doesn't. It's
making
just
you feel
about
superior.
feeling like, yeah, I'm on the right team. But the difference between the teams is that the team on the left is there to ameliorate the suffering of everybody. Like that is the desire. The Republican Party wants their group to be elevated, and not even like always their group, the elites within their circle, and then to put their boot on the necks of minorities, of women, of trans people, of gay people, and we have to be the exact inverse of that.
I just want to know what step 2 is. Step 1, hold people accountable for their votes. Do we hold you accountable for your votes? Like, or is it just because you voted for Kristen Sinema that you get to like because she was on the right team? You don't have any like the accountability is not on the voting. To me, it's like if you're doing, you have to do more. Be a part of some other movement. Like that's. It has to be more than just what you do on election day and what like comments you write in comment sections.
Yeah. And so much of this is determined by social circles and geographic placement and like things that once people's minds are open and they're met with like real language about how to turn their suffering into larger class consciousness, you have to hope that is a fluid like concept that people can learn and get better. And then writing just people off based on their votes. To what Matt says, it's wrong.
The problem is that we aren't all in like unions and political organizations. It's not that like we haven't voted for Democrats enough. And like I don't think there's debate about this, and I appreciate all the people who are saying I'm right, because I am.
Charlie Jerk says, sorry, but Democrats bad is a moral position. Just ask Jimmy Dore.
No, those people are the flip side. Jimmy's wrong for the exact same vote shaming reasons as those people are.
Mhm.
They're just the flip side of the coin.
Juniper J, sorry, Matt, it's very important to vote in the way in the general election that will keep out the worst candidate, and that is always a Republican. That's exactly what Matt's saying.
Yeah, I don't deny that, but I don't think it's the voters' problem. Like that, great job for coming to the realization that Democrats are better than Republicans on balance. That reality says, okay, the problem here is all these idiots and the way that they're engaging with democracy, and not like, oh, we need to get organized, because that's the only time this has ever happened. The only time like the New Deal happened because everyone from like liberal New Dealers to communists were getting serious about it. It wasn't like, oh, you guys are voting for Hoover, so you deserve that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. So they voted wrong. Then what?
Great job. Like, let's send people a medal who voted right.
Serpent Deflector. I'm supporting Ron DeSantis. Well, I already read that. Charlie Sheeher, to Matt's point about vote shaming, I live in a solid blue state with one of the worst inflated housing markets out there. Voting blue ain't enough, and anyone on the right who recognizes how bad things should be taken as an opportunity to highlight this kind of problems, the kind of problems fiscal conservatism leads to. I say conservatism, by the way, because it's an ideology found in both parties, and I make that clear to the folks that I'm talking to. They don't always listen, but it works occasionally.
Yep. Thank you.
Lawful Waffle, an SNL type skit where politicians / elites are giving plaudits for increasingly inane tasks. Chris Burdick, hey, DeSantis was very sweet to his wife when she was sick. He brought her Thai food. He hand fed her chocolate pudding. Oh my God, this is a horrible imagery. St. James, hi, Emmajority crew. I think we may require another appearance by body language expert David Cross. DeSantis may present a challenge. Honestly, that's a great idea. We should write that down.
Yeah, that would be very good.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite moments early on in working here when we were still on Zoom. Thank God, no longer. Dan from Columbus, I sent my last IM just before Francesca made the same point. She and I are on the same wavelength today. Dan from Columbus says the earlier IM is may just be a slip of the tongue, but Weird DeSantis' wife refers to their kids as my kids, not our kids. JR in Philly, personally, I have never touched my child. Between the 1 and the 5, 11% of U.S. labor is unionized, 6% are private sector employees. I think that if we can get the private sector up to 20 to 30%, and they do a good job of branching out into the community, then politicians will be forced to notice, and we can actually make a difference in politics. Until then, we have to strengthen labor. Yeah, I mean, that's a great goal. Midwest Queer, Jim Cramer might be the worst Kramer to speak into a microphone. That's a Kramer from Seinfeld reference.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah, who said the N-word.
Yeah.
Very infamously. Chris from Taiwan. I lived in Ecuador for 1.5 years while Rafael Correa was president, and Ecuador has gone to hell since I lived there. You can see it, and I feel it just walking around in the cities now. Correa's successor from the same political party totally betrayed the movement and started to return Ecuador to the days of neoliberalism. Hence, poverty and crime have been exploding, and the drug gangs are back in full force. I had to stay in the port city of Guayaquil overnight because of the delayed connecting flight. When I was there a few months ago, the whole city was on lockdown because of gang murders, and they told us not to leave the hotel. Very sad. Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to get a guest on about Ecuador at some point soon. But I appreciate that context, Chris. Baltimore Live Show says, great to see you on Leftist Mafia last night. Emma, thank you. DJ from Wisconsin, as a F teacher, I think former teacher you mean, in Wisconsin. Oh, a F teacher in Wisconsin has allegedly been having sex with, okay, here we go. A female teacher in Wisconsin has allegedly been having sex with a male freshman student. School board allegedly attempted to cover it up. The same school board who has banned safe spaces, banned face coverings during the height of the pandemic, allowed children who tested positive for COVID to come to school unmasked, has banned all LGBTQ things, including flags and other symbols. So disgusting. Yeah, I mean, they don't really care about grooming. Adam says, have you guys seen Tim Heidecker's parody of Bill Maher's podcast? It's really funny. I know Sam hates Tim, though, so I thought it best to mention it on the day he's on it. Yeah, I saw a little bit of it because he was on with Fred Armisen. And they were saying, Portlandia skewering the wokes. That's what it was all about. And they were parodying that. It was pretty funny, but I want to watch the rest of it. Tater Tot says, I think Cruz gulped when Trump said 9/11. Yeah. Dave from Jamaica, Republican primary strat is hang around and hope Trump goes to jail strategy. Bound by pants, it's hard not to scheiden the Freude out of DeSantis' cratering. Yep. Prairie Fire Kowalski, howdy, Emmajority report. Emma, it was awesome seeing you on Leftist Mafia. Aside from the technical issues, I thought the show was one of the better ones. Did you enjoy getting a second chance to say sack tapping to a larger audience? Also, I thank you for not selling out to the right for financial security, leftist bloggers. It was fun. Yeah, everyone should check that out. There's multiple different streams. You can find it on Matt Binder's channel. You can find it on David Dole's channel, The Rational National, The Humanist Report, among others. It was really good. Good to connect with those guys. And in my opinion, they're all doing really, really great work as creators as the space like begins to open up and there are new shows cropping up. I want to support them, and you should subscribe to their channels. You really should. Rooster Disco, that was like a perfect time to seem like a human and he failed, LOL. We're still having an issue with the phones. Not happening.
Can't get the computer to react to anything.
Yeah. All right, guys. I'm sorry. No calls today. We're having technical difficulties. So more clips. Fun for the whole family. You want to do this? I want to do this Al Gore thing, and then we'll do the Goose Camp. How do you say her last name? Goosenkamp. Perez.
Loser camp.
Yeah, we'll do her. Yeah, right. Exactly. This was from a few days ago. Al Gore did a TED Talk about direct air capture, or about climate change, and he mentions direct air capture here with, I think, a real appropriate amount of cynicism. I mention this because the Biden administration is, as of today, spending $1.2 billion on these direct air capture systems. I believe it was a part of one of the bills that was passed, maybe the Inflation Reduction Act. I think so. But I don't want to be completely positive about that. But either way,
and so it says the inflation from the Clean Air Task Force website, the IRA provides critical updates to the 45Q tax credit, which incentivizes the use of carbon capture and storage technologies.
Right. And climate activists, scientists climate scientists are skeptical about the usage of this kind of technology, as is Al Gore here. And I think he does a pretty good explanation as to why air capture, CO2 removal, not the future of combating climate change.
The one now, it's called direct air capture. These are giant vacuum cleaners that use an awful lot of energy. It's technically feasible, but it's extremely expensive, and it also uses so much energy, but it is tremendously useful. You know what it's used for? The CEO of one of the largest oil companies in the U.S. Told us what it's useful for. It's useful to give them an excuse for not ever stopping oil. A few months later, she said, this gives us, this new technology, a license to continue operating. Some people call that a moral hazard. For them, the moral hazard is not a bug, it's a feature, as the old saying goes. And so let's just look at this. Is state of the art. Looks pretty impressive, doesn't it? This is the backside of one of these machines. I had the same thought. Now this, they're improving this. They're improving this, and the new model, 7 years from now, each of these machines is going to be able to capture 27 seconds worth of annual emissions. Woo! That gives them a license to continue producing more and more oil and gas, or so they claim. Well, they also say, the experts, that in order to be economically feasible, it has to come in at $100 a ton or less. The leading company says that 27 years from now, it may come down below 3 times that amount. So again, if this sounds kind of incredible, it is not credible, but they're using it in order to gaslight us, literally. But I didn't mean it as a pun, but that's what they're using it to do, and we can't fall for it.
Everything he says there's right. This is an article from the Financial Times, and I just want you to hear what the framing is around the usage of this technology and the implementation of it by the Biden administration. The Biden administration is granting $1.2 billion to projects aiming to strip carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere in a bet on a nascent technology that it hopes will play a big role in achieving its net zero goals. The U.S. Department of Energy said on Friday that it had chosen 2 direct air capture hub developments in Texas and Louisiana as recipients for the funding, one of which is being built by oil company Occidental Petroleum, which is the CEO, who Al Gore just quoted, by the way. of that company. The projects will be the biggest of their kind. The White House hopes the grants will help to commercialize the air capture process, driving down costs and spurring a build-out across the country as President Joe Biden looks to decarbonize the world's biggest economy by mid-century. Commercialize the air capture process? This is the exact opposite direction that we should be going in.
Yep, exactly. I mean, my problem with this is not that it wouldn't be desirable to have carbon capture, or whatever, these sorts of technologies. I think it's great. My problem is who authors it. And Al Gore is exactly right when he says this is being used by the CEOs as just not for any sort of like actual promise in the technology, but as a propaganda device so they can continue pumping oil. And I think the climate crisis probably needs the U.S. government to be throwing anything against the wall to see what sticks. But that wall cannot be capitalists can't be at the bottom of that wall, taking everything that drips down, right?
Capitalists, you say?
We need to nationalize all this stuff.
Capitalists, you say? I mean, what? There are 4 or 5 names you might think of when you think of major capitalists in this country. Guess who is behind Occidental?
Warren Buffett.
Yes.
Yeah.
The investment is a win for Occidental, backed by Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway, which is also
Bill Gates would have been my other.
Which is also one of the I just remembered one of the executives that was financing Clarence Thomas was of Berkshire Hathaway. Anyway, which is betting that carbon management will play a big role in global decarbonization efforts. The company was the S&P 500's best performer last year and earned $12.5 billion in profits. So that's why we need to give them $1.2 billion to help them privatize this technology. Yeah. In the words of this article, to help commercialize the air capture process.
Yep.
When we're supposed to be, we should, as we said, the goal should be nationalizing this. And yet the Biden administration's impulse, and Jennifer Granholm, in whatever her role is as U.S. Energy Secretary in implementing this, is to just make Buffett and the rest of these investors rich off of this.
Well, it's our political class does not think any problem can be solved unless capitalists are wetting their beaks on it. That was the same Obamacare thing. This is the same thing.
Vicky Holub, Occidental chief executive, said the selection of Occidental's project in Texas was an endorsement of the company's readiness, technical maturity, and ability to move this technology forward so it can reach its full potential. The investment, she said, would position the United States as the location to demonstrate the commercial viability of direct air capture and climate relevant scale. Direct air capture sucks already emitted CO2 out of the air to be buried underground or reused in building materials, agricultural products, or fuels rather than contribute to global warming by lingering in the atmosphere. The International Energy Agency has said that the technology will play an important and growing role in setting the world on track to achieving net zero goals as economies continue to burn fossil fuels, but it is not proven at scale, and some environmentalists worry it will slow the transition to cleaner forms of energy. And that is the key. At scale. This is impossible to scale. That $1.2 billion that is being given is for 2 carbon capture systems, one in Louisiana and one in Texas. This is like the same conversation we were having about freaking clean coal under the Obama administration. Well, not in terms of scale, but in terms of no, let's get serious about this. Let's get serious about this. And this carbon capture technology emits a ton of energy itself. So the value of this for the dollar is just not there. And I'm not the kind of person that thinks government spending on this stuff is zero sum. But since this is a part of the Inflation Reduction Act, which was heavily influenced by coal baron dude, Joe Manchin, we should be immensely skeptical of the fact that this amount of money is going towards this technology. And I just think it's time to get a little bit more serious about this. So as other nations are electrifying their trains, we should be expanding our rail systems and doing so through clean technology as well.
Yeah, again, I don't think the waste of government money is the proper framing of this. It's just opportunity costs, and if this was if that billions was overshadowed by way more billions invested into grid sort of centralization and like all these sorts of modernization things and clean energy production, then I wouldn't have any problem with it, frankly. But it's that it is used. It's who gets to decide what technology is used for. Like even AI, I think, could be a useful technology, but it's being used by who is empowered in society, which is CEOs and the people who make investment decisions, to gear that technology toward how can we be labor saving and make 8 episodes of a TV show without paying writers. And that's the same thing with these sorts of carbon technologies, which I for the record, I don't think I'm as skeptical of their feasibility as I am about AI, but I am not against any sort of technological development. It's how that technology is being developed and for whom. And again, like, it's not being developed for any other reason than what Gore said it was.
Bourbon enthusiast says, why would carbon capture be a good investment for a fossil capitalist? It would need something like a carbon tax, which the ExxonMobil lobbyists admitted they lobby for because it's impossible. Well, it would definitely be good because they know a good investment for them, because in the meantime, it like pushes away government intervention on how much they're burning. So it's like, hey, we have this carbon capture stuff that we're investing in too. So you don't need to cut off our ability to do business so dramatically. We're offsetting it through vacuuming it out of the air. That's the value of it. ExxonMobil and all these big oil companies, they've already made massive investments in other energy sources and options, because they know the writing's been on the wall since the 1970s, when they had internal scientists telling them that they were contributing to the warming of the planet. They ignored it. And it's been now 2 decades of movement on this front to and it's been anemic, but to force them out of to force us all out of dependence on them. So that they're making these investments for the future of their company.
Well, and this is why ultimately capitalism it turns against the workers of it. So like we talked about with the actors strike and writers strike, that those producers have been getting a whole bunch of money off of the labor and the favorable deals they have for making those people work for them. And then they get to use it for propaganda, to grease, maybe take variety writers out to nice dinners, do this AI technology. And it's the same thing with fossil fuel, is like these companies. To me, it's like, I mean, I keep repeating myself, but the workers themselves, like somebody said, the trades support this, because we haven't elaborated a transition, right? Of course they do. And in lieu of anything like that, I think it's fine that they support that. I just think we need to be aware of where it's actually politically used, and it's being used against all of us.
Hogtown France says the investment in carbon capture is political capital to keep emitting. Also in Canada, there's a carbon tax, so it has value there. But as the captured carbon is essentially fuel, hence the desire to commercialize it, not clear to me what the benefit is to suck out the carbon just to burn it again. In my opinion, this could work as a national utility where the product is stored indefinitely. Don't see that happening, though. That's a great point, and exactly what we were kind of hinting at there, which is if we want to use this, and I saw Matt Huber refer to this on Twitter as this should be waste management, and that's why it should be nationalized, or a part of what the government is doing, as opposed to being outsourced to Warren Buffett's outfit.
We're going to Obamacare the climate crisis, and it's going to fail.
Yeah.
It's going to be better than having done nothing, but it's going to fail miserably. And,
it's already failed.
Yeah, exactly. We've blown it.
Chevron, the only somewhat feasible direction I've seen with carbon capture is through genetically engineered algae and yeast. That is something that could scale quite well if we get it working well enough, which is probably won't be anytime soon.
It would take a Manhattan Project style thing. I mean, Kowalski's mentioned that too about the algae. It's interesting. I mean, we're not going to do it until we decide that investors are going to get a nice return on it.
Dr. Jones says tree planting a proven carbon capture technique. Yes, but is Warren Buffett going to get rich off of that?
And you're going to need to plant a lot of trees.
Well, that's, yeah. Dave from Jamaica, best way to carbon capture as far as letting, carbon capture, as far as I know, is letting forests and wetlands grow back, letting the oil stay in the ground and move stuff like nuclear.
I think that'd be helpful, but I don't know if it's sufficient enough for how much carbon we're pumping.
I think they're just being slightly cheeky about the.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's certainly probably better than what the car.
It's kind of that
spinning those bags around.
What was it in London where they had those artificial trees that were just like green tanks?
That was I know what you saw, but that was, I think, an AI thing.
Oh, I got duped.
But it was like, yeah, look at this green thing and it's like, doesn't make shade, just to have algae sitting there.
Yeah. All right, let's do Representative Perez, right? Yeah. Okay. Glusenkamp.
Loser camp.
So yeah, this is Representative Marie Glusenkamp Perez. As Matt says, Lusenkamp.
A human embodiment of the argument against the idea that all we need to do is get the old people out of politics.
When I saw her in this video, at first, I thought she was that like TikTok comedian woman who pretends to be a woman in a romantic comedy.
I was literally telling Matt about
trope.
this woman before. I thought this is like a Delaney Rowe video. If you haven't seen her,
that's her.
Yeah.
TikTok not giving me Delaney Rowe stuff. Apparently,
she is so funny. But this
good.
could be a bit that she's doing about this woman who is in Congress.
She also could be a one of Issa's co-workers at We've Got Y'all,
Or the nonprofit.
in Insecure, the nonprofit.
Like, a Zoe Deschanel like character from her early career, like
totally. And the difference though is that she's not a fictional character in Insecure or in 500 Days of Summer. No. She is a politician who has accepted money from the Chamber of Commerce and now done a bunch of horrible votes.
She voted to override Biden's student debt forgiveness.
Oh,
plan in
speaking of
Congress.
that, she has apparently taken money from the Fannie or Sally Mae super PAC? Is that the student loans? Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, she's basically been voting against Democrats a ton, even though she positioned herself as a Democrat who is like a rural Democrat, right? And we have an understanding that not every Democrat is in Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's district.
Yeah, her district is apparently pretty right wing.
And that makes sense. But on stuff like that is more populist in the traditional sense, like student debt, or on issues like abortion, we expect you to toe the damn party line.
I would point this woman towards Matt Cartwright, the Democrat from Pennsylvania, who is in one of the most adverse districts in the country, and he does not take votes nearly as often as people like Marie Glusenkamp Perez does in not siding with their own party.
But let's hear what she has to say here. Alex Salmon wrote a great piece about this in Slate, which Matt Iglesias said was horrible or something like that, which means...
Richard Hanania, conversant Matt Iglesias? Interesting.
Yeah, he didn't like the article because it didn't have any skull measuring in it. But this is the Zoe Deschanel, Kirsten Sinema of the House.
Barbie or Oppenheimer from Jason. Okay, this is gonna make me sound like such a Luddite, but I can't remember the last time I saw a movie.
Oh my god.
And we didn't have Barbies in the house growing up. But I do like nuclear power. I'm vaguely aware of what's going on in pop culture. Really, someday might get to engage in that. But okay, so I guess that was a dodge, but see ya.
In an alternate universe, Zach Braff is just biting his knuckle, pining over this woman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just
Jason Biggs is just this is the love of my life.
I don't own a television. It's a little
commercial for me.
Yeah, I just like to be by a tree, And then I'll vote.
Taking Chamber of Commerce money.
Yeah.
Making sure that people still pay their student debt on time.
I just like to watch the water. And then after that, I'm going to vote against trans affirming care.
She owns a mechanic shop that if you have a Google account, you might want to review. After voting, this is from the Debt Collective. After voting to kill your student debt cancellation, Rep. Golden and Rep. MGP, MGP is Mary Glusenkamp Perez, we're talking about here, were rewarded with a donation from Sally Mae's PAC to the Blue Dogs, which they co-chair. So yeah, I look. I think I do take the point that like she basically beat a Nazi.
Yeah.
Look, you can win if being a blue dog. I prefer like we get to a point where those people have to call themselves independents, but the Democratic Party is still as welcoming of these people, if not way more than the Squad, right? But as far as somebody who like polices the discourse to the extent like she cannot be allowed to say like actually it's good that we are questioning or like handing it to anti-abortion people or saying that student loan is for like the PMC, student loan debt cancellation is for the PMC. Like that can't be allowed to fly. And so like that's what I would say to people who are saying like, well, what do you want a Republican to win? It's like I don't want her to influence the Democratic Party. So like that's my main the thing I'm trying to inoculate.
So yeah, if Kirsten Sinema is like the girl boss, right wing Democrat in the Senate, MGP here is the manic pixie dream girl version in the House. And I just want to read from Alex's piece because this is a summary of why the left is directing ire towards her. She was one of just 7 Democrats to sign with Kevin McCarthy on a resolution condemning the use of elementary school facilities to provide shelter for undocumented immigrants. She voted present rather than yes on the failed effort to expel Republican con man George Santos. She voted with Republicans in favor of the Save Our Gas Stoves Act, a completely ridiculous messaging bill that the LA Times editorial board called pro-fossil fuel foolishness. She voted with Republicans to repeal the D.C. Criminal Code revision, which the D.C. ACLU called an insult to the name of democracy and common sense, although there were some Democrats on board with that, including Biden, who did not veto it.
Yeah.
And she was one of only 4 Democrats to vote for a National Defense Authorization Act that limited transgender health care and diversity training banned critical race theory for military personnel, and most jarringly restricted abortion access for service members. This last vote cost her credibility with abortion activists at a time when abortion is perhaps Democrats' winningest issue. Greg Green, who spent 6 years as an associate director of Planned Parenthood Federation for America, said that Gluesenkamp-Perez's vote for the NDAA raises real questions about how much she's willing to stand by her campaign rhetoric about defending reproductive freedom. And then again, we mentioned the student debt stuff. So that's just a taste. Again, the Chamber of Commerce donations. She did pledge to refuse corporate PAC money, but recent campaign filings show that she was one of just 8 Democrats to accept a donation from the Chamber of Commerce. So that's pretty bad.
Yeah, we need to recalibrate so many shitty politicians are getting by on, I won't take PAC money. It's, well, do you have union support? Like that's all I'm really if you have every union supporting you, take as much PAC money as you want, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the Chamber of Commerce is one of the leading groups opposing student debt cancellation. Right. So that's
of course,
that
yeah,
explains her vote.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, that's MGP for you in case you were wondering what the controversy was about.
And we're going to get so many articles by The Atlantic and whatever the hell being like, hey, look at these new young centrist Democrats making a huge splash among all of the sort of Ivy League editors that work at our kind of publications.
Yep. Mike in Washington, she campaigned like she was a progressive, then betrayed myself and others who voted for her. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Let us know about what your perception of is like to the extent that there could be a challenger to her left. I'm curious what people say.
Majority Report wardrobe coordinator wearing something similar to a referee's uniform to show that I'm above the fray and a neutral arbiter. I got to be honest, I kind of like her top. Kind of like it. Sorry.
But maybe I know that seems like a dodge. I love that she's acknowledging that she's literally dodging a question about fucking Barbie and Oppenheimer.
Well,
the thing that
the stuff that matters.
What's off-putting to me is like they uploaded that. Like that wasn't part of a larger maybe it was, but like they clipped that specifically, like what non-entity as far as content goes.
Yeah.
To be like, yeah, I don't have a TV and I don't even know what movies are you talking about. I'm vaguely aware of pop culture and like nuclear power.
Steely Danarchy, does she know what a Luddite is? Projected movies have been around for like 130 years.
Yeah, Luddites love nuclear power too.
all out of
Well, I'm a
bubblegum.
Luddite, and I kind of am okay with nuclear power, but we'll move on.
Well, yeah, I mean, she also opposes an assault weapons ban and called for an increase in police hiring to tamp down on property crime. Yeah. Franklin Delano Disco, if anything, MGP taking all of those votes is going to kill her this election because left-leaning voters won't turn out for her. Not that that should give her any
Interesting.
cover, but even from an electoral standpoint, it is profoundly dumb.
Right, like that's the thing is like, okay, like oh, she won that thing. I was like, can she keep it?
Right,
like
right.
or should we bend over backwards for this person with horrible policy that we don't even know can maintain her position?
I mean, let's be honest too. Like, I know it's a purple district, but Katie Porter, for all of my issues with her, has shown that it can be done. She leans into the economic populism element, and she's able to maintain her seat.
But I mentioned Matt Cartwright, who's a Democrat in Pennsylvania. His district is 1% on like the political index from Cook Political Report. Less red than Marie Gluesenkamp Perez's. He's a member of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. He's a staunch labor advocate. We have Chris DeLuzio in Pennsylvania, who's also a staunch labor advocate who was just elected. John Tester in Montana as a senator. Sherrod Brown in Ohio. Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin. You do not need to be this person to represent that type of electorate. You just don't. There are literal examples in the House and Senate that fly in the face of having to be this type of person.
And when like, you know, the stuff about her voting in favor of fossil fuels, I expect that. That I mean, we're not unrealistic about votes you have to take in rural districts or in redder districts. But on layup issues like abortion, layup issues like student debt, no pussyfooting around here.
Yeah, and like, look, if your votes, like, I'm not gonna say that, but like, I'm not gonna let these people sort of message that what they're doing is right. What you're doing is craven, and it's about you clinging to power.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not gonna be welcomed into like the broader discourse of what strategy needs to be done.
Antonin Scalia Go says, y'all see Joe Rogan say conservatives whining about Barbie is stupid and overblown. I didn't.
Don't care.
Because I agree.
He does a lot of stupid overblown shit, so he can go freak out about white genocide in South Africa some more.
Mike in Washington says, I'm in Vancouver, Washington, and while we are I am in response to your question, Matt.
Yeah.
While we are just a stone's throw away from Portland, it is a fairly red district. She replaced Jamie Herrera Butler. Not excited for our prospects.
Interesting.
I
mean, if you're gonna lose, you might as well lose with a class-focused campaign. But that's just me.
JR in Philly, oh my God, I am standing this queen so hard. I love nuclear power too. Ostensibly leftist. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, these people are good. Mary Peltola, the Alaska member of the New Dog.
Yeah.
They're good at occasionally getting an issue that might make prick people's ears up. Peltola voted against breaking the rail strike.
Yep.
And it wasn't. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? That they've got a new good Democrat, and it turns out, no, not really.
She is an example of how this woman could be conducting herself and going right on one particular issue and hammering. She was the one that wanted drilling in Alaska in the Peltola. Yeah. And I don't agree, but I understand why she takes that stance.
And Alaska is an extremely bizarre political environment. That was the seat vacated by Don Young, who died.
Yes.
And
Sarah Palin ran for that seat.
and her and Sarah Palin are like best friends.
Really?
And they pledge to vote for one another in their race. Like, there's just like bizarre collegiality, political nebulousness that goes on in Alaska that I think is like hard to actually parse relative to like other states.
And I'll go back to my point about like one, like, there's the imperatives of we need to just stop fossil fuels in general, right? But I do think there is a degree of difference between a state like Alaska drilling, where they give out dividends for oil wealth.
Under Palin, they've been doing that since then.
Yeah, and then like my home state, which is like you better hope that you own that land, or you're just gonna have to put up with all this increased traffic and stuff.
Yeah, just reminds me how excited I am for Killers of the Flower Moon to come out in the fall.
Oh yeah, I saw that trailer the other night.
It looks pretty good, right? I mean, it's Scorsese. Star Fox, Emma and crew, can the folks in the server get a TGIF show? Far been a long week for some people. So we'd like a little boost. Thank you as always. Love you all in the server. Left is best. Matt is going to the soundboard. Here he goes. Thank you, Matt. Antonin Scalia says, "Oh, I wasn't saying good job, Rogan. I was just trying to show how fickle he is and how no one should listen to him."
No, fair enough. I didn't mean to like snap at you because I know that's what you were saying. But yeah, like Rogan will do this. Okay, it's like when Rogan's like, "Hey, if you're anti-immigrant, you're not on the team," and it's like, well, you should book your show as if that's the case.
Wait, he says what?
Back in like 2017, he had some sort of kids in cages thing of like, if you like kids in cages, you're not on the team.
Right.
And he's
a different guy.
He's had a whole bunch of people who have completely like minimized that nonsense.
Yeah, and he was always that guy, but now he's a different evolution of that guy who's been propagandized. But not someone who you should have sympathy for because he's ostensibly a broadcaster and has immense resources to educate himself. To more from the 5, I haven't been to the cinema since 2011 and largely ignore pop culture, particularly of the US-based variety. Does that make me a Luddite? Seems unlikely since I watch and listen to absolute shitload of English comedy from decades past and present.
Yeah, no. I mean, don't get me started on people misusing the term Luddite, which I'm very jealously a guardian over, because I think Luddites are fundamentally good, and we should model over. Which is, to be quick, not that technology is bad, but who gets to accrue the benefits of technology?
Manny, is anyone of you ever want to make video essays? I can edit videos for free if anyone needs help.
I would feel bad for making you edit videos for free.
Yep.
And I honestly, though, I would love to make video essays. It's difficult, though.
It is. That's why I wanted to have Chill Goblin on, for example.
Yeah.
Is because
it takes a lot of time.
It's so it's honestly the best format that YouTube has to offer in terms of education, I think.
I do.
And but it's so hard to do and takes so much work, and when it's just one video, it's really hard to monetize that.
Yeah.
When you're making content on YouTube, it's all about volume. And so support your favorite video essayists through
Definitely.
Patreon, whether it be Sean, whether it be
Timba on Toast,
whether it be Chill Goblin. I'm trying to think of more, but those are off the top of Sean. Yeah.
Yeah, we said Sean,
Yeah, Sean.
Not a Jose, not a J. Another good one.
Another good one. Right. Slop nuts. Matt was making a good point regarding that video. The exposure goes to the garbage candidates, and the casual folks get screwed most of the time. We vote red, we get the worst. Voting blue, we can still get shafted, but get some marginal fixes. Most Republican voters want better living conditions and less of those to drain their wallets as well as their wills. We get stuck with harm reduction options as preferred to the best. We have to do more, but they want to minimize our abilities to organize by keeping us working for eons.
Yeah, I mean, and I just think, like, you see somebody who is seeing through the bullshit finally, locking on to the signal finally, that actually rentiers control the society, and there's no really way out besides what. And instead of saying, we all need to come together, basically get rid of capitalist control of all these sort of economic necessities, you say, well, you've been voting wrong, so go cry harder. Like, I mean, I applaud all the people exposing themselves, saying, actually, that is my politics, because it's not mine, and I'm not going to move an inch closer to your position on that.
Angela, who studies cult, says, I recommend ASAP Science video on carbon capture and why it's even more of a dodge than Gore states. Ooh, okay, I'm going to write that down. ASAP Science.
Oh, yeah, H. Baumer guy, another one.
Carbon capture. Okay.
Somebody says my favorite video essayist is Ben Shapiro.
Okay, that's not great.
Yeah, here's my video essay. Me bullshitting on something I've thought about 2 seconds about.
I was thinking, like, I write all this stuff down in my notebook, and I need to, like, go back all the notes and recommendations people make Eventually, I'm gonna have because I write on a page a day notes and stuff like that, and eventually I'm gonna be able to have all this useless notebooks for like my grandkids or something like that, and they'll be like, "What are you scribbling?" I have very small and sometimes inscrutable handwriting, so it's not useful for anyone except just like to.
But it makes you feel good at the moment.
Oh, it totally, yeah, yeah, and sort of makes me remember more. But anyway. Did I say 5 more? So 4 more. Sam's Fifi says, knowing better is a great video essayist. If you guys want to interview more, he's a lefty veteran that used to be a school teacher, and his videos are so informative. That's another one. Knowing better. I'm writing it down. Okay. Minnesota Teamster, I voted blue in my city, and my police department murdered George Floyd and destroyed rent control. Did I vote correctly?
Yep. And thank you for being a Teamster in Minnesota. That's cool. I'm reading. Let me get the book. Go ahead. I got a book recommendation on that.
Charlie Jerk says, I will absolutely debate you, Emma, on why the MCU is good. I would rather die. I would rather die. And to be honest, I've had these debates with like people, the people I know that aren't on, in this space, and like, I just struggle. I struggle with it. And I love those initial Spider-Man movies, like the Tobey Maguire ones that I grew up with. That was the bomb. I loved it. But I'm so numb to the quips and the crossovers and the universes and the blue and the purple people. Like, it's just
look, that other big guy is here now. He's gonna help us fight. Like, okay.
Yeah.
The book I was gonna recommend.
Iron Man's good though, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I like what's his name? The
Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, typically he's all right. Revolutionary Teamsters: The Minneapolis Trucker Strike of 1934 by Brian D. Palmer. I just started reading that last night. On LibGen.
Worcester Ice Cat says, I feel like I'm spamming you guys about this, but I think Dylan Saba or anyone from Palestine Legal would be a great interview. The organization does great work defending Palestine or Palestinian sympathetic students/professors from pro-Israel smear campaigns. Okay, sounds good. We will note that.
God, remember that whole thing where that girl said the Palestinian solidarity statement at graduation a few months ago, and like Eric Adams and the New York Post went after her? God.
Yes, I know. It makes my blood boil, truly. And the final I am of the week. Brendan from Kentucky. Can't wait to hear that Clarence Thomas has been lifelong friends with the Sacklers after SCOTUS is hearing the stay in the Purdue bankruptcy case. Yep. All right, guys. Appreciate you all. Great week, Sam. We'll be back on Monday. We will be doing a celebration of Michael for his 40th birthday, which is on Sunday. And then, just some other programming notes too. Like, Sam is going to be out for a little while, starting on Wednesday for around a week and a half. So it's going to be Emmajority Report late August. I've got a crazy week too, because I got my best friend's wedding. So we'll be out one day with a pre-record, but we'll figure that all out. Just a heads up, but definitely tune in on Monday for celebration of Michael. Matt and Bradley, appreciate you all. Everybody that's tuned in, Dorsey, all the people that put so much hard work into making the show. Appreciate you all. See you on Monday.